G'day there guys, wife took the kids and now I'm sad. Back at it again with another episode of r/relationship advice. Now if you guys love today's content, please chuck a like on the video, sit back, relax, and chuck a prawn on the barbie for today's bloody amazing content. Posted by user ThrowRA Foot Massage. Titled, I, 24 male, caught my girlfriend, 22 female, giving my dad, 54 male, a foot massage. My girlfriend and I have been dating for 1 year, since we've both been struggling financially, and she has a tense relationship with her family. She's been living with me at home with my parents for the past 2 months. Everything's been going well, and she's made a point to help around the house wherever she can. Usually, she gets up at 6 AM to do the cleaning in relative silence. This morning, she woke me up as she left the room, but I didn't think much of it. My mouth felt dry, so I decided to head to the kitchen to get a glass of water. In the hall, I noticed the door to the guest room was open, which was weird because my girlfriend usually doesn't clean that room. I opened it and saw my father laying on a chair by the bed with his feet up, and my girlfriend was sitting in front of him with her hands wrapped around one of the feet. They were both fully clothed, and they both looked at me. I looked back, and I just quietly head back to my room, locking the door behind me. I heard my girlfriend knocking on the door and telling me it was just a foot massage and it's not what I think, but I just ignored her. I heard my dad knocking too, calling me immature, and then my mother begging me to come out for food at least. I tried to check her phone for any suspicious text messages, but it's locked. I haven't left my room all day. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. Am I seriously just overreacting? How can I handle this? Please don't mention the fudging Pulp Fiction scene, I don't care. Damn it, that's what I was gonna mention. That's an iconic scene, but I don't blame you, OP. Honestly, I wouldn't lock yourself in your room over it, but I'd definitely be like, yo, what the hell is up? Is he a commanding person? Is their relationship relaxed, friendly, or just respectful? Is she easily told what to do and compliant out of fear to disrupt things? You need to talk to them about it. The silent treatment will accomplish nothing. This is such an accurate comment. The fact that they clearly did not try to hide it means it most likely was innocent. Most definitely weird, but innocent at least in regards to the girlfriend's actions. Feels like OP could have definitely handled the situation substantially better. It was 6 AM in the guest bedroom. They're definitely hiding it. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't out in the living room during the day. Dad was getting the massages while OP didn't know. I'd say that's hiding. Nor did his girlfriend decide to tell him she's rubbing his dad's feet. Like, come on. Yeah, there's a reasonable explanation to this. It was just a foot massage. I've rubbed several of my friends' backs just because I'm told I'm half decent at it. If they have a good relationship, while you may want to consider it abnormal, it's not anything to lock yourself in a room over to find someone rubbing another person's feet. But there are questions that need to be answered. How is their relationship? What are their personalities? Does OP's girlfriend have a foot fetish? Has the mother known? Edit. Thanks for all the advice, guys. I didn't expect this much support, and I couldn't really bring myself to post more about it. I mustered the courage to go and talk to them and had my girlfriend open her phone. Long story short, this has been going on for a while, and I guess my mum either didn't know or doesn't care. Lots of heart emojis. My girlfriend apologized and said she thought it'd be too awkward to tell me, but she felt bad for my dad. While my dad said she was embarrassed about getting old and having foot pains, I told him she isn't a masseuse, as well as some more colorful words. He tried to discuss comfort levels and boundaries, but I told him the fact that they did this in secret means they already know boundaries were broken. We got into a mild physical altercation, and now I've decided to move out. I've already contacted a friend. I don't know if it progressed farther than that for sure, but the trust is gone. I don't think I'll ever be able to speak to any of them again. Ooh, that's not good to hear, but I guess it had to happen because they definitely knew they were breaking boundaries in this one, and I can't fault you for doing that, OP. I don't know how I'd react in the same circumstance, and I really wish you all the best for that one. That really sucks. I really don't know what else to say. Posted by user ThrowRA titled, The couple I babysit for are asking me to record their daughter every time I give her a bath or diaper change. I, 16 male, do babysitting work to make some extra money. This couple I'm babysitting for tonight have a 3-year-old daughter, and they have a rule that whenever I change her or give her a bath, I have to record it on my phone and send it to them for safety reasons. They left before I could say anything, and I don't feel comfortable making a video of her like that. She hasn't had an accident or bathed yet, and I'm not sure if it's a good idea to make the video. What should I do? This is a very slippery slope to getting charges for many grotesque things. Dear Lord, I would absolutely say no. There is no way. You guys are insane in the membrane for thinking that I'm going to record that. You guys are sick. How could anyone logically convince themselves that that's a good thing to do? That's disgusting. They can put up a baby monitor if it makes them that uncomfortable and they need to see. Screw that. For real, a smartphone is a bad idea. Things get synchronized to the cloud, then hacked. That is fail. I think that's a better solution. To be honest, I experienced abuse as a child and was so paranoid for my kids that I would definitely have set up a monitor. Hopefully it's an innocent reason. It doesn't actually offer any protection to the child because they'll never know if all the changes were recorded. But regardless, do not make any images of their children. These guys are insane to ask you to do that. My take on it is they are either not very smart or they're a-holes that want to make OP uncomfortable and put him in a situation no 16-year-old would know how to handle. Or more sinister stuff like trying to get OP into trouble for one reason or another. What's to stop them from calling the police themselves and tell them what they found on his device? Regardless of the reasons, it's weird and opens you up to possibly life-ruining possibilities. Definitely not worth the few tens of dollars he's getting. Hell, I wouldn't do it for any amount of money. I feel like they don't trust him because he's a male, but are still willing to leave the kid with him with a shoddy security method. That's crazy. I absolutely would not do that. Call your parents and tell them what was said. Then call those parents and tell them your parents said that you absolutely cannot take videos of a child like that. Tell them if this is really a requirement, they need to come home before it becomes necessary. All of this, please call your parents. Edit. I called them explaining that I wouldn't record their daughter, and if they had an issue with that, then they need to come back immediately. About 1.5 hours later, they come back ticked off at me, saying that I wasn't getting paid for the several hours that I babysat. I told them not to bother asking me to work again, and left. Posted by user ThrowRAFront, titled, I, 28 male, found out about my girlfriend's 28 female affair with her boss, 40s male, a week ago. Should I confront her before I leave? So, we've been together for 5 years now, and I was saving up money for a house and a wedding. But all that's gone now. I go for a run every morning, and I couldn't find my phone. I asked her to give my cell a call, but she wanted to go back to sleep and handed her phone to me. I always had some suspicion about her behavior for the past few months, and so I snooped. Let's just say all her business trips and late nights were all excuses for hooking up with her boss, who was also a married man, by the way. I don't know when it all started, but from the texts, it seems like every day and all over the office. The lockdown stopped it, and the wife found out about the affair as well. So the boss had to put an end to it. This also explained why the girlfriend was incredibly sensitive during March. I often found her bawling her eyes out, but the reason she gave me was one of her friend's mum passed away due to COVID. Last few months has actually been good for us. I was happy spending so much time with her, and it all seemed well. We also had talks about marriage and children, and what our future may look like. She also seemed more invested in the relationship compared to earlier this year. I'd already started saving up for the house already, but due to COVID, I had to take a pay cut. So I began looking for new jobs since last month. I have narrowed it down to 2 job offers, one in the same city with a substantial increase in pay, and the other on the West Coast with a gigantic increase in salary, with probably the best company out there in my field. I haven't told her about the offers yet, as the negotiations are still ongoing. However, this was all last week. Since girlfriend has started working remotely, she has had limited contact with her boss, but their conversation started again at the beginning of this month. At first, it was all about how much they both regret about what they had done to their respective partners, about how he has put a lot of effort into gaining his wife's trust, and yada yada yada. Then, the tone shifted in the second week, and it was all about how they still had feelings for each other, but it has to stop. She also mentioned that she was looking forward to getting married to me, and how it would break my heart if I got to know about the cheating. Anyways, all that texting led to them to decide to meet up for one last time, and then end it between them once and for all. I found out about all of this last Friday, and they're planning to meet up this weekend. By the way, she told me she's going to go and help out her friend, who is moving back to her hometown this weekend. When I first read through everything, I just couldn't move from the sofa for an hour. It was as if my body weighed a ton. I started imagining them having sex and making fun of me behind my back, and all kind of crap was going through my head. Last week was hell for me. Looking at her all excited about the weekend made it all worse. Anyways, I'm packing up everything tomorrow while she's out. I'm heading back to my parents. I've not told them anything yet. Rather, I've not said anything to anybody. I've kept it all inside me, and it's getting bad. That's why I'm writing this, because I'll go mad if I don't. I plan to take up the job on the West Coast. It's going to be remote for a while anyways, so it doesn't matter much. I'm not planning on leaving anything behind. No letter, no text, no anything. I'll block her as soon as I hit the road. I've spent this week fixing up all my finances and talking with my landlord, and now I'm just done. What I want to know is, am I doing the right thing? Should I talk it out with her? Honestly, April and May was really good for us, but I don't think I'll be able to trust her anymore. It was really hard even looking at her face while talking to her the past few days. I just want it over with. It's just that she really looked forward to a life together, and I feel bad that this relationship has gone south. I don't think it's worth confronting. I think you're doing the right thing here. If you don't want to, if you feel like you don't need that fight, if it's not within you, I cannot blame you at all for doing that, OP. I think it'll be easier to do that for sure, but you may want closure in the future about it all, you may not. I'm not you, I don't know how you think. But I do think it's great. It'll feel so good to just hit the road and get rid of that and start your new life. So I definitely support it. You owe her nothing. If she cheated once, it's an easy bet that she'll cheat again. You may want to reach out to this guy's wife to give her a heads up. Chances are, he could have been lying to your girlfriend about his wife finding out, and she should know something is up. I'm sorry this happened to you. Please consider talking to a counselor for your own mental health. There are online options available. Take care of yourself. Yeah, I missed this in my post, honestly. Do this. Be a decent person for the other person getting screwed in this. I think the decisions you've made thus far are incredibly valid. I don't think anything you're doing is wrong at all. I applaud you for handling the situation so well, not only in your reactions and responses to her, but also by covering your butt and ensuring you have a job lined up and finding yourself a place to stay. If she was truly excited to marry you, she wouldn't have cheated. With marriage comes the promise and expectation of endless and absolute loyalty and trust, both of which she's already broken before even reaching marriage. You sound like a well-rounded and level-headed person. You deserve better, and there's better out there, I promise. You just have to let go of her and everything attached. At the absolute most, I think you should leave a one-sentence note saying, "I know, and it's over." If not, you may yearn for closure and be filled with questions on whether or not she knows. This will ensure that the door has been closed in the past, and you both clearly know why. I wish you the best. Exactly this, but definitely leave a note. Otherwise, it's easy for her to explain it away as your fault and paint you as the man who just disappeared. Do not let her off the hook. This is her fault and she needs to be left with no doubt about it. Leave without a trace, man. There's no point in confronting her because of the amount of respect she has for you, which is none. Who the frick says let's do it one last time, then it's over? You know how screwed up that sounds, bro. That's like her living in her own world. Also, confronting that mess is only going to affect you because you said it yourself. You don't know where your emotion is going to take you if it gets into a shouting match. What you should do is consider therapy after this and block her on everything. Just know you gotta heal from this before getting into another relationship. She's in for a big fudging surprise when she gets back home. That same line, "let's do it one more time then it's over," Her whole life is going to turn upside down. This is karma. Anyways, dude, look out for yourself. She doesn't deserve any respect from you. Take that West Coast job, and I think this is a time for you to be free and explore things about yourself. Try new hobbies, start to spend time with you before you get into a relationship, and also remember, it's not your fault that she cheated, so don't think you need to fix anything. Cheaters are always cheaters. The fact she's so nonchalant about it, and like she thinks nobody will find out, and how she wants to have sex with her boss and then get married with you, shake my head, it's sad. Hope you take care of yourself after this, bro. Once you get to your parents, tell your friends what happened and all that, but from there, I wouldn't even contact her. The text messages, man, are so disrespectful to you. Just go into therapy if you can and explore some things you might not have before. It's hard when we hold all this in internally. It hurts a lot too, which is why we tend to avoid it and suffer, but it's the route you should go. Going within, addressing your feelings, you may cry or any feeling may arise. Just let it all out. You don't deserve this, and it sucks it happened to you, but just know you aren't the problem. Hope you get through this situation. And OP says, thanks. Posted by user ThrowRA Sleeping Cons. Titled, My 30 female, husband 30 male, has started sleeping in the guest room and I can't sleep without him. I've been crying all night and falling asleep at 5 in the morning. I know it sounds ridiculous. I'm 7 months pregnant and he says that I snore and take up too much room, so he's been sleeping in the guest room. For the past 3 days I haven't slept more than 6 hours total and I spend all night crying. I know it's not his fault nor his responsibility to ruin his sleep so I can, but I don't know what to do. I don't want to seem demanding and make him sleep with me, but I miss him at night and I can't sleep without him anymore. In the 10 years we've been married, there's probably only been 10 nights we haven't slept together, and those were all at the beginning of our marriage. I'm just so tired during the day and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do in this situation, so I'm not going to comment. I feel for you. My husband had to make the same decision recently because I'm too pregnant and interrupting his sleep with my noises, sighs, fidgeting, and getting up to pee every hour. It was really hard for me to sleep without him at first because we just never do that unless something's wrong or one of us is out of town, both of which are rare. Something I have found helpful though is that 1, we agreed he'd still sleep with me on weekend nights, and 2, I've been speaking up a lot about missing him and wanting hugs and to hang out during non-sleep times. Oh, and 3, I realized that, sadness aside, holy crap, the bed is actually way more comfortable when I have it to myself. Embracing number 3 has probably been the biggest help, shifting my focus off of him being gone and onto me getting all the pillows. And I don't have to worry about bothering him when I fidget, watch TV really late, get up to pee for the millionth time, snore or fart. I've also made him promise probably 100 times that he'll come back to bed permanently after I deliver. It's not a completely all better fix, but these shifts do help that I've found. I wanted to add, you should be happy he's not building resentment because of chronic sleep deprivation. You guys will have enough of that when the baby is born. He needs to get those full nights of sleep in now, and I second extra daytime hugs. Be sure to cuddle together at night before splitting. Someone else says to the OP of the post, "Aw, honey, honestly, I think your shift in hormones from the pregnancy may be playing a role. It seems to me that he genuinely just wants to get better sleep and is having trouble while you're pregnant. I'm sure if you talk to him, he'll be understanding, and maybe you can work something out. 1 night together, 1 night away, together for weekdays and away on weekends, or vice versa. Just remember that it's nothing personal and he just wants some better sleep. It might help to sleep with an item of his clothing or something else soft that smells like him. This. I'm only 18 weeks pregnant and my husband sleeps in the other room by my request because I know he needs sleep to be productive for work the next day. I have horrendous hormonal insomnia and move a lot now in my sleep. It's better for our family unit that one of us is rested. Plus, he's the breadwinner, so he needs to sleep. Sleep is so important, nothing personal, and we have to do what we have to do to get through this time. I kicked my husband out of our bed when I was 18 weeks. I was already too hot and wanted to spread out on the bed to cool off without running into his body heat. He took it like a champ. He opted for the pull-out couch since it's bigger and he could watch a TV at night. My husband snores terribly. I used to kind of poke him whenever he woke me up, and one day he got fed up and went to the guest room and never came back, lol. That was many years ago, and we're still happily married and both get better sleep. It hasn't hurt our sex life or intimacy or anything like that, so if he doesn't want to sleep in the room with you, don't worry, it's not a big deal, and it doesn't mean anything about your marriage. Yeah, it's pretty common nowadays for couples to sleep in separate rooms. Me and my wife always have. Still gets hard to sleep sometimes, even downstairs. I can sometimes feel the vibrations of walls shaking from her snore blasts. When we finally buy a house, the bedroom is most definitely getting soundproofed. Lol. Posted by user Throw Rat and Axe, titled, My 26 female boyfriend, 29 male, won't use his real voice and it's becoming a problem. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for just over 5 months now. In all other areas, things are going pretty well thus far. We've met each other's friends, and I'm planning on introducing him to my family soon. My boyfriend's voice seems to fluctuate a lot, way beyond what's normal. 99% of the time, he'll speak in this heavy, guttural voice that sounds like he's an action hero or something. I know that some men have a deeper voice naturally, but my boyfriend's voice is far deeper than anyone else I know IRL. It's practically a growl. But as we've been spending more time together, I've noticed that there are certain times his voice sounds way different. For example, a few days ago, I asked him a question in the middle of the night when he was almost asleep, and his voice sounded much more normal. Whenever he's excited or taken by surprise, he lets this other voice slip. This other voice is much higher in pitch and more nasally, if that makes sense. It's nothing like the voice I associate with my boyfriend. When we first started dating, I remember not noticing that my boyfriend had a voice that was lower in pitch than average, but never thought much of it. But I was watching a saved video of the two of us from a few months ago, and comparing now to then, there has been a significant drop in pitch. His voice is so gravelly now that he basically sounds like the Christian Bale Batman voice if the guy had also been a chain smoker. Where is she? Where is she? This really didn't seem like an issue until I was thinking about it the other day, and I brought it up to my boyfriend just out of interest. What I wasn't expecting was for him to absolutely shut down, telling me to mind my business and that his voice had nothing to do with me. Obviously this relationship is new, but he's never flipped out at me like that before. He's actually usually a pretty good communicator. How should I handle this? I don't really understand the issue here or what is getting him upset, but I get the feeling it's something we need to talk about, and if it's making him react like this, I don't know why he'd put on a voice that is so much deeper than his natural one, especially considering nobody really talks like he does in real life. Maybe he's insecure about his normal voice and thinks it's too high-pitched or feminine sounding. That's all I can think. His defensiveness about it points to insecurity, and maybe he's not ready to talk about it yet. Or perhaps he was bullied or had an unpleasant experience with others, especially during puberty. My dad used to always say, "Markee, why are you always talking with a flat, monotone voice? You need to talk louder, you need to speak different, just don't have the one tone all the time." So I can see where this guy's coming from. Or perhaps he's feeling super insecure because he gets misgendered at drive-thrus and over the phone, and he thinks he sounds like a woman and is having some serious problems dealing. Source: 230-pound manual labor bro who's been called ma'am far more than I would like. I don't pitch down my voice in person, but I do tend to drop an octave on the phone. Being misgendered hurts. Hey, I have the opposite. Want to swap? I'm always called sir over the phone. Sounds like Elizabeth Holmes from Theranos. She also faked her deep voice. It's probably Theranos, I've not seen the movie, sorry. That woman is wild. The voice thing is hard to fault though. There's some research out there which shows that women with lower voices are considered more trustworthy. It kinda makes sense to do when you're trying to lead a company. One way to make some headway into internalized misogyny of investors and such. But yeah, keeping that up sounds exhausting and overall nuts story. He might be a superhero and trying to protect his secret identity, or, as another poster pointed out, he could just be insecure. The fact that he couldn't talk about it supports that as well. Maybe you could talk about this specific issue in writing? That might help him if he's insecure about it. I really hope it's this superhero one. 2 months from now, update. I found a cape in my boyfriend's apartment. How do I tell him that he needs to watch The Incredibles? But yeah, not gonna lie, even I didn't like my voice for the longest time, and I got a septoplasty to like fix my septum, and I thought it would change my voice because I was like, damn, this voice is too nasally, man. I want a deeper voice. I want it to be smoother. But yeah, I just grew out of that eventually and I learned to like it. But that's not to say I wasn't insecure for the longest time about my voice. I've got teased for it before, and it just makes sense that some people don't like it. But it also means that I can do a really nasally, "Hey Margaret, hey Marcus, what are you doing?" And I love that for me now, but I used to hate it. My girlfriend told me she was with a friend, but that friend was with me picking out an engagement ring. How do I confront my girlfriend about her lie? God, this is a doozy. I swear my life feels like a movie right now. Sorry for the weird formatting, I'm on mobile and this is my first time posting on a sub like this. I, 28 male, am planning on proposing to my girlfriend of 3 years, 26 female. Now, I suck at picking out jewelry. I'm the type of guy that doesn't see a problem with heart-shaped jewelry. Seriously, why is it considered so ugly? So, every time I want to buy something for my girl, I usually consult one of our mutual friends. My girl's best friends are all friends with me as well, and we all get along well. So asking them for help picking out jewelry is something I'm used to. When it came time to picking out a ring, I consulted my girlfriend's best friend Justine, fake name of course. Justine and I are quite close, and she knows my girlfriend better than anyone, including me. So when my girlfriend went out to visit her sister and baby nephew, I invited Justine over to the house to help pick out a ring. Justine and I looked through a few catalogs, but decided it was a dead end, and it would be better just to go to professionals at a jewelry store. However, I didn't know when my girlfriend would be coming home, so Justine and I thought of a clever text to gauge how much time we had. I asked her when she'd be coming home, as I was ordering takeout and wanted to know when to tell them to have the food ready by. She responded by saying it would be a few hours. She met up with Justine to go shopping. Now, obviously this took me by surprise, since Justine was standing inside my house. I showed Justine the text, and she looked as confused as I was. It isn't out of the ordinary for my girlfriend to meet up with people out of the blue like that for shopping, lunch, etc. She's a very spontaneous person and loves making plans on the fly. So ordinarily, I would have believed this text in a heartbeat. However, obviously this had to be a lie. When she came home, she acted completely normal, and I played along, but it's been really hard to act like everything's fine. We got takeout, ate together, and cuddled on the couch after. So far, she's caught on a little that something's upsetting me, but I just can't tell her what. Looking at her kills me. I don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I have zero trust issues, and we tell each other everything. So this lie is killing me. I want to ask her about it so bad, but if I tell her I knew she was lying, I'd have to explain why, and I really don't want to do that. What do I do? I know she lied to me, but I don't know how to confront her about it. Should I just forget it? This won't stop gnawing at me, please help. Edit, I'm sorry for the lack of responses. It's been a hectic day and there's a lot of comments. Thank you to everyone who has commented so far, I appreciate them all. Edit number 2, sorry again for the lack of responses guys, it's really been a crazy day. My parents are moving and I've been helping them. Also, I've never experienced this many comments on a post in my life. I'm going to talk to her tonight once we're both finally settled in after such a busy day, and I will update tomorrow. I know you say you can't tell her why you know, but I honestly think you should. You don't want this to bug you forever and propose to a girl that could potentially be hiding something. Just say you were hanging out with Justine because you needed help with a gift, so you know she wasn't with her, and see what she says. Trust and communication is important, and it would suck to know you proposed to a girl who could be doing you wrong, but also just as bad to sit there and let that eat you alive. You could just not bring up the proposal and say we were picking out some jewelry. You don't have to blow the whole wad. Maybe she was getting something for you. Just tell her and ask her what's up. Yeah, Just say you were picking something out for her birthday, or that you were organizing a romantic present and that her friend was helping you. However, if she presses, I would admit that you were looking for a ring. It would be sad to ruin the surprise, but honesty is key. Best of luck. I don't think he should be pressed into telling her that he was picking out a ring. Chances are, she told a white lie for an innocuous reason, like she was picking out a gift for him or something. But if she's lying to him for more shady reasons, he probably won't want to propose to her anymore. Also, he doesn't want to ruin the surprise. It's fine just to say that he needed Justine's help with something, which is true. Ask her straight up, "Hey, why did you say you were with Justine when I knew you weren't?" No use beating around the bush about it. Either she'll have a reasonable explanation, or she'll freak out and you'll get to save a fortune by dodging a bullet. But how do I explain the fact that I knew she was lying? I'd have to tell her about the ring and the whole thing will be ruined. You've potentially got much bigger issues than the surprise of an engagement being ruined. You don't have to tell her why you were out with her friend, because that isn't important right now. What is important is why she is lying. Update: my girlfriend told me she was with a friend, but that friend was with me picking out an engagement ring. How do I confront my girlfriend about her lie? Hey guys, oh my god, where to begin? My last post got way more attention than I ever could have imagined. Suffice to say, it was a tad bit overwhelming. Seriously, the amount of people begging for an update was a bit dehumanizing in a way. Like, I wasn't a person going through something, but more so a story, but I understand. I just want to say thank you so much for all the support and wonderful comments. I got a lot of great advice that helped me tackle the issue head on. I also got a lot more really kind comments and messages. It was awesome. I also got a lot of comments that made me realize how toxic this sub can be. There were many comments that just said things like she's cheating, it's over, and don't even confront her, just leave. It's advice like that can ruin relationships that just need a little work. And thank you to the people that told me to hit my girlfriend, told me I was an embarrassment to my gender, and best of all, told me I should encourage an affair because it would lead to great experiences for me later in life. You gave me a good chuckle. On to the update. I decided to confront my girlfriend. I thought about using some of the lies people suggested, but they just wouldn't make sense. To say I ran into Justine somewhere, well, I told my girl I had to stay home and do stuff around the house, and that's why I couldn't go with her to see my sister-in-law. To say Justine was helping me pick out jewelry, it doesn't make sense for her to come all the way to our house to help me pick out a piece of jewelry unless it was a serious piece of jewelry, like an engagement ring. If I just wanted to get her a piece of jewelry as a gift, I'd ask her friends for suggestions, or ask them to send me pictures of jewelry she might like. It all happens over text. None of the excuses made sense, so I decided to be honest. I basically just said that I knew we had been thinking about marriage, and she probably knew a proposal was coming soon, so I invited Justine over to help me find her the perfect ring, and that so happened to be the day that she said she was going to see her, so what's the deal? She immediately started grinning like an idiot and prodding me about proposing and the ring. But then we go back into the topic of where she was, and she confessed what she was really doing. No, she wasn't cheating, and no, she wasn't picking out a ring for me. The amount of times that was commented was crazy. So some people are dog people, and some people are cat people. Well, me, I'm a snake person. I grew up with snakes my whole life, but I never felt I was able to get one because my girlfriend has always been uneasy about living with a snake, which I completely respected. Also, the process of buying and raising a snake is very different than that of buying and raising a dog or cat. It's quite complicated. So you could imagine my surprise when my girlfriend showed me a picture of her holding the cutest Kenyan sand boa that I have ever seen. Needless to say, my girlfriend was going to surprise me with a snake. We're picking her up next week. Let me know if you want a pet tax, she's so cute. I definitely didn't expect this, and I feel bad for ruining the surprise. But oh well, life is good. Sorry if this isn't the ending you guys wanted or expected, just a snake. Thanks for reading. Edits, pet tax. Sorry, I'd love to give some better pictures, but the only picture is a picture of the snake right next to my girlfriend's face, which I don't want to show. If people are still interested, I'll probably upload more to my profile once we take her home. Guess you could say he was rattled over nothing. Dramatic people are gonna have a hissy fit. People really need to shed themselves of all these ridiculous preconceived notions. You can't let negative thoughts slither in. All of the verbal venom these people are spewing will just poison your mind. I'm glad to see honesty and communication triumphed. Congrats on your future engagement, your new pet, and a happy resolution. Seriously, I love that this relationship was filled with honesty and communication. The only secrets they kept from each other are surprises to make the other person happy. And even then, they get found out super quickly because they're both in touch with each other's lives and friends. Well done, you two. I love how you both were trying to surprise each other, and both surprises were ruined in the sweetest way. I sold all my snake habitats to buy you this ring, but oh no, you sold your ring fingers to buy me a snake. Oh god. Posted by user ThrowRA0123, titled, Wife had been flirting with her coworker. She said she would stop, but it just happened again. Is there any future in this relationship? My wife and I have been married happily for slightly more than 3 years now. Last Christmas, I found she had been having a long conversation with a coworker of hers, in which they talked about having had sex multiple times and that they couldn't wait for the next one. The guy said he was going to book a hotel near the office right after Christmas. In this conversation, when he said he was looking forward to seeing my wife, she would reply with things like, I'm looking forward to much more than just seeing you, etc. You get the idea. Overly flirty and sexual. When I confronted my wife, she denied the conversation existed. After deleting it, she showed me her phone to prove it didn't exist, but I had taken a few pictures. She then said it was all virtual and that they never did anything physical. To prove she was right, she messaged her coworker in front of me, asking if he had booked the hotel. He replied, not yet. She then asked if he was really expecting them to meet, to which he replied negatively. She promised they would never talk again, and I agreed, simply because I love her a lot and wanted to trust her. But in my mind, I wasn't completely sure she had been honest. For a few weeks, I must admit that I checked her phone a few too many times, so she changed her password, which I was fine with because I was probably being too paranoid. This week, I picked her phone up because I needed a code that had been sent to her phone number. I didn't even need the unlock screen to get it. To my surprise, under the message with the code, there were other messages from the same guy. One of them was an audio, the second one was a shirtless photo of himself in front of a mirror, and the third one said sweaty and a few emojis with the tongue. I confronted her since she had promised they wouldn't talk ever again, and she said he just wanted to show her that he's going to the gym to show progress, but that the rest of the times they talk, it's just about work, and that it's just a coincidence. I asked her to show me the rest of their messages, but she said she had mistakenly deleted their conversation history. My wife said she's going to change this time, and that I never really forgave her, and that's why she kept talking to the guy. She says this time she's really going to stop, but I have a hard time believing it. Or even if she does stop, I fear when things don't go so well between us, she'll do it again. I really love her, but can't keep living like this. Is there any situation in which this can work? What would you do? Dude, you are being blind. He's not being blind. He doesn't want to believe. He had clear evidence they were fudging back then already, and he latched onto her excuses like a drowning man onto a life ring. She is a serial cheater who is unlikely to change and has no reason to, who doesn't need to make up excuses because OP is making them up for her. Flirty? They've clearly been nailing each other. Tell her to, and feel free to paraphrase, frick right off. Don't even paraphrase, no filter, just say it. Clearly the wife has no real intentions on being faithful. Even if this had just been flirty non-physical messaging, it still crosses a line in my opinion. OP, don't let this keep happening, because it will. She will say over and over again that it won't, it will. She will just get better at hiding it by changing his name in her phone or using a different app to talk to him. Oh, and the fact that she somehow tried to turn the fact that she still talks to him back onto you, that shows that she was grasping for an excuse, and that is a crappy one. Not your fault. It's her fault, and she apparently takes zero responsibility for it, which is concerning. You deserve love, not this. You've been married 3 years and you don't mention kids, so I'm assuming you don't have any. Consider yourself lucky, dude. 1. She's cheating on you. A lot of people cheat, most don't get caught. Consider yourself lucky again that you don't have to take her word for it because the evidence you found is clear-cut. She may eventually admit, she may not. No matter, you have your answer. 2. Get a lawyer. You know your marriage is over and you can never trust her again, right? 3. Book an appointment with a therapist. A video chat appointment is better than none at all, and even if you have never had therapy before, you would be surprised by how settled you can feel after opening up to someone about how badly you have been hurt. And they will help you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and in your case, it's a life without someone who is pretending to love you while deceiving you to serve their own purposes. And what are they? They are the comfort, love, and stability that you provide at home while getting it dirty, hot, and cheap on the side. Again, sorry dude. 1 hurts a lot. Thanks for your reply. Mistakenly deleting text history is like a 3 or 4 step process. Just did it on my Android, mate. Open messages, hold thumb on convo, click delete, confirm that you want to delete text history with Joe Blow, with the option to even block the number. No mistake about it, it's a deliberate process. Lol, right? I was thinking the same thing. She's a terrible liar, dude. You've caught her multiple times now. What more do you need? Update, you were right, and I ignored every single one of your comments, and eventually caught my wife with the other man. This is a tough pill to swallow, and I can't say I hadn't been warned. This is my previous post. Many folks asked me to follow up with an update, so here it is, fresh from the oven. After reading every single comment of the Reddit post, my brain just couldn't overcome the catastrophe and the collapse of the world I had built for me, in which my wife is my love, my best friend and partner, as well as the person I admire the most. She was entirely perfect, and made me happy for many years. I thought no couple in the world could have what we had. We were both very happy for a long time. We were both attractive, we were both inherently good, had big hearts, and were individually wildly successful in our careers. After the Reddit post, I moved to an Airbnb, and eventually with family to think things through. It was a terrible time, but a psychologist helped me to recover from a terrible mental state. It coincided with the pandemic hitting very hard in my city. I caught the virus, which didn't help. During this time, we kept talking, and my wife was very sorry, and continued saying they hadn't met. I knew it wasn't true, but was willing to forgive the woman of my dreams, who continued being the highest altar of my universe. Fast forward last Saturday morning. I went back to our place, ready to forgive her and talk things through in the most mature way possible. And well, there she was. But I was the one who received the biggest surprise, to say the least. The guy was in my house naked, and so was my wife. The guy from the messages. The guy from the pics. The one she said she didn't even like. I caught him hiding in my bathroom as my wife was putting her pajamas on. When I saw him hiding in my bathroom, he uttered, "Sorry, dude." For a second, I asked myself, is this where I kill him? But I instantly replied, I got nothing against you. Because the guy was just nailing this hot woman. Even if he was doing so in a house full of pictures of me, pictures of our wedding and our families. Pictures of my dead father, who would be so sad to see the marriage he never witnessed was going to end. He has always been the reason I try to make the world a better place. He passed away 2 months before our wedding. I'm sorry, I still love her to death, but I understand enough is enough, even if my world collapses. I hope I can build a new one without lies, and in which I'm not just a blind believer under an altar of a fake god. Godspeed. It's only at this point now that I realize I've read that one on r/am-I-the-a-hole like a month ago, I think it was, but this is just different. This is a whole different perspective on it. It's even sadder reading the relationship advice post, man. I feel bad. Sorry you had to experience this in the most extreme way possible by literally walking in on them naked together. Great composure when almost any reaction would have been justified. Just take your time and take care of yourself for however long it takes. I can't imagine the pain you have. Opie, very sorry it happened, but it was literally going to take you walking in on them for her to admit it. What she's done is disgusting and unforgivable. She's been lying to you for how long? Time to end it, my friend. A long journey ahead, but we believe in you. You don't deserve to be disrespected like this. I mean, hopefully. A lot of people can still find a way to rationalize even seeing their partner cheat. It was only that one time. Now that she sees how hurt I am, she'll change. She only did it because I hurt her first by leaving. OP, I hope when these thoughts start creeping in, you'll come back to this post and remind yourself how you were feeling today. Good luck. Source, been there. Just make sure you don't take her back, 'cause she'll do it again. This is a life lesson I failed to learn again and again. I guess I was more afraid of being alone than I was afraid of staying with someone who evidently didn't love me. She cheated on my sorry ass numerous times, and I forgave every one. It even got to the point where I told her if she cheats on me, I don't want to find out about it. I just accepted it was part of our dynamic then. Thankfully, she left me up for some other dude she repeatedly promised to me was just her friend. I begged her to stay and she didn't. That finally allowed me to look after myself and my own issues and take the time to heal. I'm doing really well nowadays. I have a daughter and a significant other I know deep inside that I can trust no matter what. And man, what a whiplash it is to be in a healthy relationship after living in Red Flagsville. Posted by user ThrowRA1900-222, titled, My girlfriend, 21 female of 18 months, asked me about my preference about her pubic hair and now finds me revolting. So, yesterday, my girlfriend casually asked me how I prefer pubic hair to be groomed. She usually keeps hers short and neat. I assumed she was just looking to change things up and wanted my opinion, so I answered honestly and said that I find completely shaven attractive. But in the grand scheme of things, I couldn't care less. It's not a turn-off if there is hair, and that I like the way she has it now. Well, it turns out that she had a lecture today at college. She studies psychology, and the topic was on pedophiles. Apparently, one of the talking points was that pedophiles are attracted to the lack of body hair. When she told me this, I asked her, "Are you seriously calling me a pedophile because I find completely shaven attractive? Can I just point out that you're 21 and not 12? She basically skirted around my questions and then stormed out of my apartment when I kept pressing her on it. As she left, she called me revolting and is now ignoring my calls and text messages. What the hell? Honestly, not even sure where to go from here. We've never had any issues, and I was planning on proposing in the next year. Where has this even come from? TLDR, girlfriend pretty much called me a pedo because I told her I liked shaved softy when she asked me my preference. Just because pedophiles like no pubic hair doesn't mean all people who prefer no pubic hair are pedophiles. Just like all dogs have 4 legs doesn't mean all things with 4 legs are dogs. And I was going to tell my significant other that we don't need a dog because we have a table. At least the table won't crap on my carpet man. You have a carpet man? I, 33 female, actually had a somewhat similar conversation with my husband, 34 male. I used to shave and wax my private bits because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. Every time I did, I got a terrible rash, itching and ingrown hairs, regardless of the method used. It looked disgusting and felt much worse. Eventually, I decided to stop shaving and waxing, and I just keep my brush trimmed short and clean. It made a huge difference for me, and sex became much more enjoyable for me without the constant itching. At one point, I asked my husband about his preference about pubic hair, and he basically said the same thing you did. He finds shaven attractive, but what I do is entirely up to me, and he's fine with whatever style I choose. As long as I'm clean, he really doesn't care. I explained the reason for choosing a short trimmed bush, and he was, and still is, perfectly fine with that. In return, he asked me about my preference, and I told him the truth. I don't care at all. Clean is all that matters to me, so he's free to choose as well. At no point in that conversation did I think of there being something wrong with his preference. I've seen enough porn over the years to know what the mainstream standard looks like. I think your girlfriend is projecting a bit too much from her courses on you and your relationship. As someone else already pointed out, She's also completely disregarding the general pressure placed on adult women to shave absolutely every bit of hair below the elbows. Oh Jesus, I mean the eyebrows. Eyebrows. What's gonna happen when they learn about psychopaths, sociopaths, and so on? Is she gonna go out of her way to diagnose you with all of that as well? She needs to chill and stop taking random things out of context to fit some theory they currently preach in school. Edits. Someone pointed out that it looks like I was grouping psychopaths and schizophrenics as something inherently bad, and it came across as offensive, which was not my intention, so I changed it for sociopaths. I was just trying to pick 2 random examples of things they might cover in their courses, that's all. Honestly, we do need to address that body hair is natural, and it's unrealistic for men to expect women to have it shaved constantly. You're right, as long as it's clean then it should be fine. But for some people, especially guys, not shaving your body hair is unhygienic, period. I started shaving so young because it seemed like the right thing to do. But as you've said, I've got so many ingrown hairs, and my skin was irritated constantly because I have extremely sensitive skin. And no matter what precautions or expensive products I got, it didn't stop. About a year ago, I just stopped, and only shave when I feel like it, and I'm fortunate that my previous and current partner didn't really care. But I do feel sorry for all the young, impressionable girls who still feel like they have to. There's a lot of really good, long comments, but this video would be like 40 to 50 minutes long if I read each and every one of them. And I apologize, but I'm not going to read every single long comment by psychologists, as good as they are. Update. My girlfriend of 18 months asked my preference about her pubic hair and now finds me revolting. So, an update to my previous post. She ignored my calls and messages for 3 days, at which point she texted me asking me if I was free for her to come over for a movie night. I told her sure, but we need to talk about what happened before anything else. She replied with, "About what?" I figured it was best to wait until I actually saw her in person before trying to discuss the issue, which I did. When she arrived, we sat down, and I started by saying that I was upset by our last conversation, and I'd like to discuss what happened, at which point she said, "It doesn't need to be discussed, can we leave it?" I said, "Not really, no. I'd like to get to the bottom of what actually happened, and also discuss your reaction of storming out and not talking to me for 3 days, and then acting like nothing has happened." She basically refused to discuss it. So I told her that if we can't at least discuss what happened, then I want to break up, and that she needs to get her stuff that she has in my apartment and leave. She lost her crap, bawling and screaming so much that my neighbor came down and knocked on the door to check if everything was okay. He's a chill dude, so asked if he could stay whilst she got her stuff together, as she seemed to calm down once he was present. She basically sulked around slamming cupboards whilst she got her stuff and then left. So yeah, no real answers, and I'm still confused as hell as to what happened. I text her mum to keep an eye on her, as I'm kinda thinking she's losing it. I've never seen her like this, and it worries me. She's been blowing up my phone about how she loves me, and can't imagine a life without me, but honestly, this whole thing has soured me, and I'm struggling to see any way that we will continue this relationship. Thanks to everyone who replied before. TLDR, my girlfriend baited me into a question about pubic hair, implied I was a pedo, ignored me for 3 days, and then tried to act like nothing had happened, and so I broke up with her. Fun. She tried to Constanza a deal breaker. I never thought of having a neutral party sit in during a move out, but that's both an incredible gesture from your neighbor and also a very smart thing to do. I had a girl literally punch me in the face twice and threaten to call the cops on me. So I called her ex and asked what the hell to do, and he was like, "Oh, I know how to handle this, I'll be right over." Weird, I know, but we both thought the other was just her friend, and she was fudging us both, so we high-fived over being done with her. They got back together later, and she called the cops on him after he caught her in bed with his best friend, and put his fist through his new TV, and took his medical marijuana to his buddies to stay. She told the cops he broke the TV and stole the weed when it was all his. Still, he had to lawyer up with those charges. Shoulda never screwed with her again. Never stick your dick in crazy, boys. More than once. More than once is a very good lesson. Don't do it more than once, boys. It really sounds like she knows she screwed up, but doesn't have the emotional maturity to apologize. You'll do better without her. See, this is what confuses me the most. We've had disagreements in the past where she's been out of line, and she's always apologized and handled things well. The same for me. I've screwed up before and apologized. I always thought we had a healthy relationship with good communication, but clearly I was wrong. Then I agree with what everyone else is saying. You've accidentally stepped on a trigger, and she just can't cope with this right now. But you did good in setting this boundary. She has to sort out her stuff on her own. I'm sorry that you're hurting, and I hope you feel better soon. He didn't so as much step in it as she guided him into the punji trap and was amazed it blew his foot off. To be fair, seeing someone step on a sharpened bamboo stake smeared with animal feces and get their foot exploded would be pretty surprising. That's true, there would be, it definitely would be. Read the original and hoped for an update. I bet she asked around and all her friends told her she was bat crap crazy. She was embarrassed, so refused to talk about it. Either way, good on you for drawing a line in the sand. It needed to be discussed before you moved on. Crazy that even after your ultimatum she wouldn't talk about it. I, 30 female, found out my husband, 32 male, hired my friend, 26 female, to strip at his bachelor party. 4 years ago, I got married to my husband after dating for 6 years, so 10 years total now. My friend Rebecca has stripped since she was 21. She stopped last year after getting married and is going to be a stay-at-home mum when her baby is born, since our children were very close and we're basically neighbors. She lives at the bottom of the road we live on. Last week, one of my husband's friends visited at the same time as Rebecca, as I had made plans to shop with her. I forgot to cancel and she showed up. After she left, my husband's friend commented that he can't believe we're still friends after the bachelor party. I texted Rebecca in the moment that I don't want her around anymore, but she hasn't responded in a week. I feel betrayed by the both of them, but I know it was just her job. I miss Rebecca a lot, but I'm so hurt. I don't know what to do. My biggest concern is the friend's comments. I would want to know what happened. If it was me, I would ask him, her, and his friends. The fact that she hasn't responded also makes me suspect there was more. Yeah, that was 100% this friend going, "Girl, I noticed you didn't know, so I need to tell you this without actually telling you this." Friend did you a huge solid. I'd invite them for coffee and ask them for details. I actually don't think the comment implies anything more than he was just surprised he was still friends with what he only saw as the stripper they hired that one time. It doesn't inherently mean that something more took place, just that he thinks it's wild that he's kept in contact with his bachelor party stripper, who he doesn't realize is his actual friend. This might get buried, but I'm a professional burlesque performer. At one point, a fellow dancer asked if I wanted to perform with her at a private holiday party, and when she told me the payout, I almost crapped myself. I was pretty new at this point and didn't even know I could make this amount of money from performing. But I found out it was for a business owned by a friend of my dad's, and I bailed immediately. There are some lines you just don't cross. Losing a friend is hard no matter what, but this person was not your friend when she crossed that boundary, and she wasn't your friend when she continued to hide it from you. You can miss her and mourn the relationship you thought you had, but this is not a loss. Good luck. On the same note, the husband either requested her or it was a surprise, and he has never mentioned it and refuses to comment on it now. Frankly, I think that's disgusting treatment of his wife. If it was a surprise, he could have said something along the lines of, "The bachelor party was great, but it got a bit weird because they hired X to Y," and also should have refused to let her dance for him. The fact he didn't mention it ever suggests to me he requested her, or suggests he cheated with her that night. I would personally need to know if anything else happened. OB, talk to your ex-friend, talk to your husband's friend, anything. But yeah, the friend isn't a friend, as she hasn't even bothered to reply. She says in the comments that not only did he lie and say that there wouldn't be strippers, but that he planned the bachelor party and hired the friend himself, which to me is super dodgy, and it means they both lied to her and went behind her back to keep it from her all this time. That is really crappy. How do you start off a marriage with a major lie like that? I could see this be fine if everyone involved is consenting, but you weren't consenting, and your husband obviously knew you wouldn't be okay with this because he hid it from you. Other than the stripper being a friend, lots of marriages start with cheating at the bachelor or the bachelorette party, including full-blown sex in some cases. And of course the info comes out sometime later, and then a post is written like this. Then those marriages are screwed. Like, most marriages also have started with multiple years of monogamy. It's not like you were living up the single life the year before you got married. I never understand this last night of freedom phenomenon. Just don't do stupid crap, especially right before you get married. Update: I found out my husband tied my friend to strip at his bachelor party. I confronted them both separately. They both gave two very different stories. Rebecca says that my husband got drunk, groped her, and when she refused, he pushed her and started to yell at her. Apparently my husband and his friends believe I shouldn't be friends with her because she, quote-unquote, led them on. My husband says that they didn't sleep together, but Rebecca tried to initiate and performed oral while he was blackout drunk. I'm staying with my parents because I don't know who to believe here, or if I should even believe either of them. All I've done is argue with my husband since the confession. I'm left more confused than ever, and honestly, I just want to say F the both of them, but if my husband's story is true, then he's totally innocent. But what if Rebecca is telling the truth? What if neither of them are? I'm sick of them both. I haven't stopped crying since arriving at my mother's, to be honest, and I don't think I can. Why would he hide this for 4 years? Why would she? If they both believe they're fully innocent and victims here. My husband is a mean drunk, but he's always so soft-spoken, and I don't know if he can do those things Rebecca claimed. But I don't know how he reacts around his friends. But I've known him for longer than Rebecca too. But I'm all for believing women. I feel like by agreeing with my husband, I'm denying Rebecca's story and side. Hiring her in the first place is not innocent. I don't know who I would believe either, but either way, he is in the wrong for hiring her behind your back. Editing for clarity since I'm being accused of victim blaming. Being assaulted doesn't make it okay that he hired her in the first place. OP should drop both of these people. Yep, this. For another thing, her story is way more believable than his. He claims she tried to perform oral sex on him while he was drunk? Come on. Her story is not believable either, not by a long shot. What she's saying is that OP's husband forced himself on her at the bachelor party, and she has never said a word about it. More than that, she lives 5 minutes from the guy and is around him all the time, and she has no issue with it? Please. Do you know what tells me both are lying? In the original post, that friend recognized Rebecca had an odd reaction. You're still friends with her after that night? Paraphrasing here. So the friend was not terrified because he knew OP's husband forced himself on some poor woman, or embarrassed, or uncomfortable, or ashamed. He was amazed/curious. Most likely, Rebecca did something and everyone was drunk, and OP's husband responded, and so on. Like, she initiated something, OP's husband went along with it, and the rest is history. You know, like typical stripper and drunk guy bachelor party interactions. Could be Rebecca put on a real show, fueled by the fact that he knew the guys, and because she wanted to show off. The fact of the matter is, we don't know. But her story is definitely not more believable than his story, because the friend didn't have that type of reaction that says, crap, it's the girl OP's husband forced himself onto at his bachelor's party. If OP wants the truth, she should ask the guys that were at the bachelor party and compare their answers. But by now, her husband might as well have set the story straight with all of them, so it's too late. The best decision would be to divorce in my honest opinion, because regardless of what happened at the party, who started what and who did what, the fact of the matter is her husband hired her best friend to be a stripper at his bachelor party, and both he and she kept it a secret. They both betrayed OP. And people who side with Rebecca because it was just a job are simply wrong, because there are some boundaries you never cross. The fact that she lives so close and still comes to their house leads me to believe it's possible more things have transpired between OP's husband and Rebecca. Yep, if something happened that made Rebecca and the husband uncomfortable, according to both of their stories, Why would they still hang out with one another? If husband forced himself on her, why would she keep hanging around? If she forced herself on him while he was blacked out, why would he be okay with her coming around? Also interested to know how husband knows about what happened when he was blacked out. Is this information from his friends, or just made up? Last update, I found out my husband hired my friend to strip at his bachelor party. This will be the last update. I'd like to say thanks to everyone commenting. I realize I don't care anymore. I've done nothing but think about my husband throughout our marriage. My entire life has revolved around him. All my thoughts revolved around him, and I've finally realized I've been the only one keeping this marriage going. I've been relying on him and forgiving him for such a lot of bullcrap because I don't have anyone else. I gave him everything, and that's not happening anymore. Maybe finding out about Rebecca just sped things up. Maybe I relied too heavily on my husband. I told him this morning that it's over. He has yet to stop texting me, begging for a chance. I texted Rebecca and told her I no longer want her in my life either. Both have confessed to sleeping together and continuing to do so, my husband out of anger to insult me, and maybe Rebecca wanted a last screw you. Rebecca's baby is my husband's, so to say screw you back, I messaged her partner to let him know. I'm devastated, obviously, but now we have to make plans about what's happening with the house and custody, and I can't afford to continue crying about it. Rebecca's partner let me know at 6 p.m. that she has moved. He helped her move all of her stuff into my husband's house. It's all happened so fast, and I can't believe I was so oblivious to it. Maybe I wanted to be. Once again, thanks for all the comments and messages. It's really made me open my eyes. It's all happened so fast that I don't have time to process it all. Looks like they wanted me to find out before she gave birth. A nice happy family now. Your husband has his own house? Where do you live? Our house, but it's clearly his house now that he's moved Rebecca and his baby in there. I'm living with my parents. You didn't move out, you're only separated. The house still belongs to both of you. You must lawyer up right now. Keep telling yourself it's your house, sis. You'll get everything that's yours. I'm sorry this is happening to you, but you need to stay strong. He thinks he's won, but you need to remind yourself that it's not over till the papers are signed. You still have every right to live there, meaning you could technically go back with a crap ton of family. I don't recommend this because crap can get dangerous with him any second, but please stay strong. You deserve so much better, and I'm sure you'll find happiness and love again. You're amazing. Good for you for standing up for yourself. A few things to keep in mind. 1, that is also your house. He has no right to evict you. He cannot by law kick you out. 2, get a lawyer ASAP. Your husband will try to manipulate and guilt you into doing what he wants and believe his lies. Find a shark. 3, screenshot and record everything they say. Get proof of both of their emotional abuse to help you get custody. 4, make sure you have all of yours and your children's important documents, e.g. passports, birth certificates, social security numbers, etc. 5, freeze your credits. 6, talk to the lawyer about whether it's best to stay in the house as long as you're safe or not. In some places, by leaving, it helps your ex gain the house. 7, get a counselor to help cope with the above. You can do this. You are strong enough. However, your husband is going to be terrible through this. A therapist will help you cope and see through his abuse and lies. 8, see if the children can stay with you and keep them safe. And 9, file for child support before Rebecca can. That way, you should get more. Lawyer can help with this. Good luck, fight hard, you got this. This one doesn't have an update, but I'm going to read it anyway because I think it might have an update later. Posted by user ThrowRA What Do I Do 201, titled, My wife, 32 female, has been having an affair and I'm broken. Now, my wife, 32, and I, 30 male, got married in September 2018 after being together for 3 years. Right before our honeymoon, we bought a house together in VA, and after we got back, pooled our remaining money and time to completely redo her old starter home in MD, and sold that in early 2019. We both work full-time jobs in Virginia, and I make pretty good money. She makes even better money. My wife, let's call her Katie, decided to pursue an MBA and started last fall. She had an educational trust that her parents started for her, and therefore didn't ask me for any financial assistance. However, because I saw how time-consuming the MBA was on top of her already large professional workload, I took it upon myself to take care of everything related to our still relatively new home, including dealing with contractors, managing all our bills, managing the house, taking care of our dog, purchasing and assembling furniture, yard work, cooking, cleaning, laundry, and hosting/entertaining her family that insisted on coming over at least 2 weekends every month. That's a lot of work. Lately, Katie has been unhappy with our relationship, complaining that I wasn't spending enough quality time with her and not making her feel wanted. I tried to argue several times that between her work and studies and my work and home responsibilities, that there simply wasn't very much time to spend together in general. We would frequently not even get to eat dinner until 9 or 10 at night, and I would either need to bring her a meal to her home office, or we would quickly eat together and she would return to schoolwork to study or percolate in group projects or a session. She would argue back that the things I was doing around the house were simply my responsibility as a husband, and that while she appreciated it, it didn't count towards me trying to maintain or build our relationship. We'd also been arguing a lot about other things, and combined with the lack of free time, would be intimate maybe once a month. I'm actually dying on the inside reading this, I'm not gonna lie. But after one particularly emotional and drunken conversation, about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, I vowed that despite what I already thought was prioritizing her needs, that I would go even further. I began to take off work. I, unlike her, still had to go in during COVID, or go in late and leave early, stopped seeing friends, skipped workouts, and would even wait until she was occupied with something else to even take a shower. All so I could spend as much available time as possible with her between her obligations. As a result, things seemed to be slightly improving between us. And now we arrive at last Wednesday. As per usual, I was making dinner for us. We have a tablet in the kitchen that I primarily use for recipes. As I was finishing up, the tablet began pinging non-stop, and I checked out what was happening. As it turns out, the tablet is linked to her Google credentials, and I first saw an ongoing Hangouts conversation between Katie and a friend, discussing what to do about someone's wife who had come to our house that day while I was at work. Scrolling through the conversation history, I found more about Katie's lack of feelings for me and the longing and dreaming to instead be with some guy who we'll call Luke. Physically shaking at this point, I decided to venture away from Hangouts and open her Gmail, where I found several emails going as far back as March between her and Luke calling each other babe, sweetheart, and my love. Unsure about what to do next, I first took screenshots of everything I could find, then stepped outside to call the only person with law experience that I knew, an executive at my company who I'd become friends with. He advised that I immediately confront her, but first call someone to come over to the house to act as a witness, in case things became physical, or if she might later try to claim they did. So I had a friend over in about 20 minutes. I confronted Katie, and she confessed to the relationship and admitted that they had been intimate several times over the past 4 months, both at hotels and in our room. Now completely distraught, I tried to maintain my composure and asked her to leave. She stayed at a hotel for 2 nights, then despite my protest, came home on Friday, stating this was her house too. She insisted on talking when she returned, and not having a witness this time, I decided to record the entire conversation on my phone. She tried to reiterate that she had been unhappy, but despite that, had been reaching out to her friends and mother about suggestions and resources she could use to help our relationship, even though I had suggested counseling in the past, but she refused. She tried to tell me that she made a mistake, that she had already broken it off with Luke a week ago, and that I was the only person she wanted to spend her life with, and the only reason she hadn't told me about it was because her friends had advised her not to. She also said that if we truly love each other, that divorce was a mistake, and that we should be able to get through anything. I replied that love is worthless without trust, and then said that if she insists on staying here, to please stay in the guest room. Obviously free usage of her home office and the guest bathroom, but to please stay out of our bedroom and bathroom unless telling me first. So now I'm here, sitting in my house alone with just my dog. Her and her aunt, uncle, and cousins are currently at our neighbor's house for a barbecue. They don't know about what she did. I can't bear to go over there because I don't want to talk to or even look at Katie, much less pretend in front of a bunch of people that nothing happened. 90% of me wants to get a divorce, but despite her feelings, I was very happy with the life we were building. We had even been talking about being pregnant by this time next year, but no matter what I decide to do, I know I don't want to make that decision without getting more information about what I can do, what might end up happening if we proceed, and I definitely want to talk to a few Virginia lawyers to protect myself. We only have one joint account with less than $20,000 in it, and the only asset we share is our house. So that's it. I'm sorry for writing so much. If you've made it this far, thank you for reading, and I would really appreciate any and all insight, suggestions, or advice. I just feel completely destroyed, empty, and alone. Please help me. Divorce, no kids, 10K average with lawyers if either of you fight, $500 disillusion, both with half assets. During my divorce to an actual Katie, who was banging a dude at her work, my therapist said, "Someday she'll just be someone you used to know." 6 years later, I can't even picture anything about her. No kids makes it so much easier. Honestly, that does make me feel a bit better. Thank you. I was married for 9 months in the military. When I decided to not re-enlist, she grew instantly distant. Within a month, she was banging one of the next-door neighbor's friends, and I pulled phone records to prove it after being suspicious. Didn't have kids with her, but she briefly was able to turn my little brother and his wife against me. They knew each other, and that's how we met, by saying I was being violent to her and her kids. Once I showed him proof that she was cheating for months, is when he realized he had been duped. I caught her cheating the next day because I told her I was going to be in the fields, and walked in on them cuddling on my couch. She called the cops on me and got a protection order against me, and 2 of my buddies I stayed with recorded a phone call when she called me saying I better not file for divorce because she needs to save money to move out. Otherwise, she'd tell the cops that I was touching her daughter. We had the recording and showed my chain of command, and I've never seen a first sergeant and captain have my back harder than I've ever seen. My captain was a female, and holy crap was she awesome. Her and my first sergeant would check on me regularly, went with me to get my stuff from my house, and made sure if she tried doing anything shady, they would protect me. So luckily, my life could have been ruined by a woman who just wanted benefits, and the last time I checked, my ex-wife had 6 kids with 5 different guys. Seek a therapist and a divorce lawyer so that you can prepare yourself for the future. Maybe you'll survive, most relationships don't, but you need to be prepared either way. She needs her 1 counseling and then MC to even have a chance. Your journey from here is long and hard. You will have a good and bad days. She is going to have to seriously understand how traumatic this was for you and the serious number she did on your mental health. Thanks. My concern is that since she was blaming me to begin with, that she would make all the counseling about that and not about what she did as a result. But I'll look into it. I appreciate the advice. If she blames you for this in the therapy sessions, then I think you have your answer right there. Marriage and love isn't about being right, it's about navigating through life as one. Posted by user ThrowRA70, titled, "My girlfriend 25 female repeatedly insists that I redo my proposal over and over. I'm running out of patience. I, 24 male, proposed to my girlfriend 25 female in late 2019 after 2 years together. Admittedly, now that I think back on it, it wasn't the most well thought out or planned proposal. It was mostly spontaneous and came as we were lying in bed together, so I didn't even have a ring at the time. At the time, my girlfriend said that she would love to marry me, but she had been looking forward to a more elaborate proposal. I assured her that I'd sort something out. A month later, after shopping for the perfect ring, I set up some candles when she was coming home one day. Think the Chandler and Monica proposal in Friends, and asked her again. Well, my girlfriend loved the ring, thankfully, and teared up with happiness. She said that she really appreciated my efforts, but what she meant by elaborate was something original that she could tell our kids about one day. She mentioned the name of one of her friends whose boyfriend, we both know, proposed by making a huge video montage of their time together and putting it on a projector. I decided to start over, and in February, I planned a 3-night trip away in our favorite city. This time I spared no expense, and ordered all the extras: a 5-star hotel, a photographer, even an opera quartet. When I asked her to marry me, my girlfriend said yes, and I thought all was well. Except when we were alone again, and she gently told me that she didn't think that now was the right time, as she was so worried about her future and COVID-19 that a proposal wouldn't be a good memory for her. Oh yeah, that's reasonable, that's so reasonable. Since then, I've carried the ring around with me almost everywhere. At this point, I've even tried to involve my girlfriend in some of the proposal planning, asking where, when, how she'd like us to get engaged, and what would make her happy. However, all she's told me is that she doesn't know exactly what she's looking for, and I'll know when the right proposal comes. From my perspective, this is hugely frustrating, since in all other respects she's assured me that she wants us to begin our lives together. Last week, I thought I'd bite the bullet again, and after cooking her a homemade meal, I asked her if she'd like to be my wife. She asked me if I was trying to propose, and I asked her what's wrong with that. Once more, she told me that she can't wait to marry me, but it still wasn't quite the proposal she needed. Honestly, at this point I'm frustrated. I realize that my girlfriend might come off as pushy or high maintenance in this post, but I love her very much, and in day-to-day life she's honestly the most understanding, chill person to be around. Honestly, I don't understand why she's acting this way, and what I'm supposed to do to satisfy her with the perfect proposal at this point. I'm confused and running out of patience. How do I deal with this? Honestly, I would sit her down for a heart-to-heart and tell her that you love her, but if the proper proposal is more important than the commitment and engagement, you don't know if marriage is the right decision. Tell her you will not pressure her, but when she is ready to accept the ring, you will give it to her. Not with a fancy show, you already tried that. Just yes or no. If she says she wants a more interesting story, remind her that most people only get one, and she had 3. Or, alternatively, suggest that she proposes to you when she's ready, so that she has that perfect moment. Your other option is couples counseling, to perhaps find a reason for the issue. Is she afraid of commitment? Is the right proposal from someone else? Will she be okay with her wedding day not living up to her dreams? Honestly, something almost always goes wrong on that day. I understand to a point. My friends' and family's proposals were like Pocono's weekend in front of Cinderella's castle in Disney, yada yada yada. Mine was, we went to dinner and the Grinch movie, went back to his place to set up the Christmas tree, and he told me to close my eyes as he had a surprise. I knew it was the ring. Nope, he had hung up a bell with fake mistletoe to kiss under. Then he told me to close my eyes for another surprise, which was him holding out the ring. Was it a little completely underwhelming? Yeah. Have I hung that little bell up every Christmas and kissed him under it for the last 19 years? Also yeah. We have 21 years worth of stories. If I based my decision on his proposal, none of those stories would have existed. Updates. My girlfriend repeatedly insists that I redo my proposal over and over. I'm running out of patience. Thank you to everyone for your advice. I actually wrote this post yesterday, but it was too soon to post an update. There are a lot of people calling my girlfriend a future bridezilla, and while my post may have made her seem demanding, I'd just like to clarify that she really is my best friend and a great person. There is no chance of us breaking up. Saying that, after thinking a lot about the responses I received, I decided to sit my girlfriend down and draw a line in the sand. I told her that after 4 proposals, I'm lost and confused as to what she wants, and if she has a dream proposal in mind, she had to tell me exactly what she wants so I could make this work. My girlfriend looked somewhat nervous at that, so I pushed her to communicate properly. She apologized again for not accepting my proposals earlier, but said that in 2019 she was still testing out our relationship, and so when I asked her to marry me, she said try again, rather than yes, in the hopes that I'd wait longer. From her perspective, while she had responded positively to the idea of marriage prior to this, it had still been too soon for real engagement. I will admit that I'm not the best at reading social subtext if it's not stated directly, so I could have missed the implication when she asked for a different proposal. When I later asked her in February, she knew I was the one, but was telling the truth about being too anxious to consider marriage. She actually confessed that she's been planning on proposing to me later this year, sometime around when we were planning to fly to my home country. She had been trying to keep it a surprise, but we've now agreed that it's better that we're both on the same page when it comes to proposing. We've decided that we're both going to sit down and work together to make the proposal special for both of us. A kid told me I was too fat and too old to understand handball, so I stopped holding back. Last week, I, 50 female, was told by a 12-year-old boy I was too fat and too old to understand handball. I watched him play with the other kids for a bit, and he was a complete arse about it all. He would deliberately taunt the younger kids, promise them he wouldn't get them out, then send devastatingly fast balls at their heads and point and laugh when they got out. He changed the rules so he never got out and blatantly cheated. I inserted myself into the game. He was very condescending and promised to go easy on me. I smashed that ball all over the court. Low shots, high shots, balls with spin. He didn't stand a chance. The best bit was, after I got him out for the 4th time, all the other kids cheered. I spent the rest of the afternoon teaching the younger kids how to play while he sulked in the corner. Petty AF and immature as hell, but super satisfying to see him get his comeuppance. Yes, I'm a terrible person, but he was much nicer to the other kids the next day. Edit: for those wondering why a 50-year-old is playing with kids, I'm currently working as an out-of-school hours care educator in Australia. After school care, gotta love 'em. I'm talking about handball as in the lunchtime game played by school kids, also known as Foursquare. In this particular version of the game, you each stand in a small square that is part of a larger square. You hit a tennis ball to each other with your hands, or the little rubber handballs. The squares are designated ace, king, queen, and dunce. If you're an ace and you get out, you go back to dunce. If you're in any of the other squares, you leave the field and someone else comes in. We don't play dodgeball, that is barbaric. I've never watched any of the shows that have been referenced, except in passing as I flicked through channels, talking about comments. I was annoyed by both his attitude to the younger kids when he won, and by his assumptions about me based on my age, gender, and body shape. Hope that answers all the questions. Posted by user MisTerm314, titled, "Force me to work past my 2 weeks notice? Fine, I just take my extra week off using sick time. My bosses are jerks, and the company culture is trash. Ever since day one of my job, my bosses cared little about my work and about my well-being in general. They never transitioned me properly through training and never had time for me, because they don't know anything about my work. I had to self-train myself. When I finally found another opportunity, I was like, screw this company and the bosses. I handed in my 2 weeks notice. HR contacted me and sat me in a meeting room with my bosses to pressure me to stay longer because they needed some more time to find my replacement. My job is very important for industrial work, and if I am not around, the industrial work would have to halt. I asked if I would be paid more for staying longer, and I was told no. I said, okay, I'll be happy to stay an extra week, but after that I won't be able to stay any longer. Little did they know that I had accumulated sick leave. I don't get compensated for my remaining sick leave days, and I called in sick for the entire week. Best of luck, y'all. Edited to add, I stayed an additional 3 weeks on top of my 2 weeks notice. Sorry about the formatting because I'm on mobile. Edit 2, wow, I didn't expect this post to gain much attention. There was some confusion as to why I had agreed to stay an extra week. I was forced to stay an extra week so that I could train the new hire. I'm the only one who knows how to do this work. For the week. Posted by user Alfalfa Floozy, titled, "Lady demands to speak to an American, never says what language she wants." Some background. I'm an American that was born and raised in the South. It's an obvious dialect. Also, English is second language for most people here. Language barriers are not uncommon. All of this comes into the revenge. So, years ago, I worked in a call center. It was a large company with English and Spanish departments. I worked in the English department, but sat next to our Spanish department. I handled billing. No one calls billing in a good mood, but in general, they're angry with the company, not the rep. You calm them down, fix the issue, and you're off to the next call. Few customers are memorable, but this one I will never forget, and I still laugh. This call happened on a busy day with long wait times. This just made the revenge sweeter. The call went like this. Ring ring, hello? Thank you for calling blah blah blah. I want an American on the phone. What? I said I want an American on the phone. Ma'am, I am an American. I want an American on the phone. At this point, I can only assume I'm not speaking the right language. Un momento, por favor. I put her on hold, transfer her over to the Spanish line, and just giggled to myself. But it didn't end there. The lines were starting to calm down, and I was chatting with one of the Spanish reps when his desk mate pops up and says she's got a psycho on the phone. It was the woman I had transferred. She was going ballistic. The Spanish rep had her on mute while talking to us. I apologized and told her what happened. She started laughing, then looks right at me and said, I'm gonna put her back in the Spanish queue. The Spanish department had a blast laughing at this crazy woman as they kept putting her back in the queue. I don't know if she ever got her issue fixed. Then again, we never found out what the issue was either. She was too busy yelling at everyone. Moral of the story, be nice to phone reps. I worked in a call center, and I had a guy scream at me for stealing American jobs, and once I had a lady ask me, where are you from? I can't understand your accent. I said, I'm from the US. No, but where were you born? I say, in the US. No, where were your parents born? In the US. And she says, well, I'm from the US and we don't sound like you. To many people, if you don't have their accent, which many of them claim they don't have, then they tell you that you have an accent. True, but I'm from Oregon and this lady had no discernible accent to me, so I'm not sure what she was hearing. Also, once in a while, people love to tell us that we all sound like robots, and I had one guy who was convinced I must be the automated system, despite me saying, no sir, I'm not the automated system, and no sir, I'm not a robot, I'm a person. But he was convinced that I was some kind of system that was programmed to say it was human because you sound like a robot. Posted by user Restless Bitchface, titled, I Fed the Tramp Dog Treats. Buckle up, kiddos. This is a long and exciting ride. The year was 2006. I was a dumb girl that had gone and gotten myself married to someone completely wrong for me. He refused to work, and as a result of financial difficulties of us both being in school and only me working, we found us living with his mum. Let me tell you, that is every newlywed's dream. Over the course of us living with her, anytime I would buy myself a food treat, mother-in-law would eat it. Didn't matter what it was or where I hid it, she was a bloodhound for sniffing out things that I bought just for me. The final straw was one night we had gone out for dinner at the Cheesecake Factory. I had taken my slice to go and put it in the fridge. I was going to have it after the work the next day. Next day at work is absolute crap, and the only thing getting me through my shift is the slice of cheesecake I know is in my fridge. I go home and pop the lid off the container, and it doesn't look right. There are motherfrickin' fork marks all around the outside perimeter of my cheesecake. Like, she could just sneak some off all around and I wouldn't notice. I was ticked. I went and handed it to her and told her she may as well eat the rest of it. Fast forward a few days, and I'm at the pet store picking up some dog food. I'm standing in line waiting to check out, and they have all these little boxes of dog treats that look like the little red boxes of animal crackers you can buy for little kids. Now, it very clearly says in the front, circus animals for dogs. About this time, I've got the little devil sitting on my shoulder whispering in my ear, do it. And then the angel pops onto my other shoulder and screams, fudging do it! So they magically end up with the stuff I'm buying. I drive home and leave everything in a bag all together on the kitchen counter. Several hours later, she comes into our room and says, "I think there was something wrong with those animal crackers. They were the most awful ones I've ever eaten. I had to eat a whole thing of frosting with them just to finish them." All I said was, "Huh," and shrugged my shoulders. Oh, that makes my skin crawl. That's disgusting. Ew, I would never eat animal stuff like that. That's just gross. I would never. Posted by user TravelingGal23, titled Car Alarm for the Win. This was a few years ago, but one day my neighbors across the road came home with a new system in their car. They decided to invite several people over, open their car doors, and crank the music. Not only was this terrible music, but it made the walls of my house vibrate, and I had a migraine. Ow, that sounds the worst. Now, you'd think this would only go on for a minute or two just to show the friends what it could do. But no. I saw one of my neighbors go to talk to them. After they walked away, they turned it up even louder. So, having no other alternative than to annoy them, I hit the alarm button for my vehicle. Luckily enough, my vehicle at the time had a very loud and annoying alarm. When I did this, they looked around and turned down their music. So I turned the alarm off. A few seconds later, they crank it back up. I turned my alarm back on. This happened about 3 times before they got the message and had their music at a normal level. Posted by user CJ's Opinion, titled Steal My Friend's Orange? Enjoy a Night of Puking. My BFF and I were sitting in English literature. She had an orange on her desk. This boy took it and refused to give it back. He wasn't being a bully or anything, but kind of teasing, and then he ate it in front of us while he was laughing. So we told him he shouldn't have eaten it. And he says, "Why not?" "Because it was in my locker for 2 weeks. I was going to throw it away after class." "Yeah, plus she dropped it on the floor and we were kicking it around. And then I stabbed it with my pencil. I think part of the lead broke off in it. I hope you don't get lead poisoning." He accused us of lying, and we just shrugged and ignored him for the rest of the class. The next day he came to class. He didn't look too good. Said he was up that night puking. We told him we were just kidding, that none of what we said happened. Poor guy. Didn't know what to believe at that point. Edit. The orange was fresh and we did not mess with it. We only messed with his mind. Posted by user Skyfly Thai Food, titled Lockdown with Annoying Neighbors? I can be just as annoying. So this is my first ever post, so please don't be too harsh, lol. To make a long story short, I have the most annoying neighbors in all of England. One in particular has a son who runs rampant and spends hours in his back garden that is joined to ours, screaming at the top of his lungs or peeking over the fence and shouting at us while his mother tells him off. Not for screaming or his other antisocial behaviors, no, just because she's a horrible mother. I feel a little bad for the kid, and she happens to have the most grating voice in the world. This goes on from 11 AM to 9 PM, so I can't put in a noise complaint. But the most annoying thing is the hours of horrendous music. Now, we're not talking just regular, objectively bad music. Don't be silly. It is honest to God EDM, traffic noise, or whatever has the highest usage of the N-word. She's a white woman, by the way. That she'll shout at the top of her lungs so that you know she's an open racist. Today, I had had enough, so I found the loudest speaker in my house, dragged it outside, placed it against her fence, and played some music for 2 hours straight as loud as possible, and anytime one of them screamed or shouted, I would scream back just as loud. Needless to say, she went inside after the second hour, and hopefully will be more considerate in the future. Posted by user Blatitis82, titled Dealing with Neighborhood Fireworks. A few years ago, I was working at a place that required me to wake up very early in the morning to get to work. My neighbors, enthusiastic patriots that they were, began their July 4 celebrations weeks before the holiday, blasting ordnance far later than decency and city regulations allowed. It woke me, freaked out my dog, and woke my son. The next morning, I parked in their driveway and honked my horn until they came out to confront me. I told them that I would repeat this every morning if they continued their celebrations past 9 p.m. as the city mandated. I only had to do this once. Good on you, OP. I'm very proud of you. Posted by user Revenge of the Funk. Titled, Talk Crap About My Friend? I Will Ruin Your Night. I went to a bar about 15 minutes away with a coworker who was chunky. We were playing pool and having fun when I hear the group at the next table over talking crap about my friend. So a little while goes by and I realize that the guy who was talking crap left his phone on the ledge near the pool table and he and his group moved to another area. I gave my friend my keys and said to get in and start it up and unlock my door. She did, and I grabbed the phone and we dipped and I dropped her off. I then hit a drive-through and called the guy's mum in his phone. I went through his recent texts and got a few friends' names and told his mum I was with friends with her son and some of his friends at the bar, and he was trashed and doing God knows what in the bathroom. And I also said he left with this really skanky girl and might be having unprotected sex with her, and she looks like a junkie. Then I started calling random numbers in his phone and yelling at whoever answered. So now it's like 2 a.m. and it's a Friday night. The guy whose phone I have realized what's going on and calls his phone. He doesn't know who I am, just that I'm the a-hole with his phone. I tell him I didn't appreciate what he was saying about my friend and he wanted his phone back. Now, keep in mind the only people on this road at this house are drunks and cops. So I told him I would leave his phone by the giant sign at a local mall, right at the base of it. He probably lived nearby, but it was still 15 minutes from the bar, which was past closed at this point. So it's like 3 a.m. and he calls me asking where his phone is because he obviously went to the mall to look for it. I asked him what mall and he told me. I was like, no, not X mall, I said Y mall, which was another 20 to 25 minutes away. He hung up, and then a few days later I threw his phone under the tire of a semi on the freeway. That was a thing I would later do when working as a waiter, when people would lose their phone and also not tip. If they didn't tip me, they must have thought I was not a good server, and a good server would have given their phone back. So, since I was not a good server, I would keep their phone and play dumb. It was a restaurant in a mall, so lots of people in and out. My friends thought I was nuts. I always had random cell phones on me, and would randomly discard them at random times and places. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Posted by user Anonymous8543, titled, Don't Mess with the Holidays. Disclaimer, this story isn't mine, it's from a friend. Backstory. We live in Portugal. Here, there is a law that states that if someone abandons a plot of land, and that is used by someone else for a minimum of 20 years, that person has the right to claim the land for themselves. This friend of mine has inherited a house in a town. This town is basically a beach holiday town. The rich people of the city nearby often have a house there and spent the whole summer there. This was during the early 20th century. Some people still do that, including my friend. So, his family has been using a spot right next to their house as a playground for the kids for way more than 20 years. In fact, for over 50. They hadn't yet needed to claim it since the owner didn't do anything to it, and as the whole neighborhood used it, doing that would be arsehole-ish. Until 2 years ago, when he decided to sell it to a couple that built a 2-story house there. The house completely ruins the view that he had over the sea, and also ruins the look of the neighborhood due to its differences to other houses. So my friend decided to claim the land. This was before the house was built, but since Portuguese justice is slow AF, the house was already fully built when it ended. This time with the approval of the other neighbors. The couple that had bought it had some friends in the justice system. The wife's mother was a retired judge, her sister was a very well-known and respected lawyer, so they managed to overcome my friend's claims. On a technicality, but from the start it was obvious that my friend should have gotten it. The way they got it was very shady. They only won because they knew people, and this is why he decided to get his revenge. The street between the two houses had free parking everywhere. This is because most people in the neighborhood are friends and don't have garages, so they park in front of their house. But the annoying neighbors had a garage. My friend had a truck that once was used for a restaurant of his, and he parked it right in front of their garage door permanently. It was actually illegal since they hadn't paid the town council a yearly fee to have non-parking spot there. After a few months, they decided to get that. That costs €8,000 a year to maintain. Until this point, it was more out of a petty revenge, but the annoying neighbors had threatened him to remove his vehicle before that. They have said that they would throw rocks at his windows, which they once did, that they would flood his garden, which they did repeatedly, and even that they would kill his dog, a German Shepherd. They tried that using a knife, but the dog bit the guy on his leg. And as you know, these dogs bite hard. The threats were all recorded by my friend, since he would record every conversation he'd had with them in person or over the phone. He had taken pictures of the window and the garden. He sued them, and this time the influences weren't enough. They had to pay a €10,000 repair for the window and garden. He has a friend that elevated the costs conveniently quite highly, and they had to pay him a further €30,000 in compensation for the mental health issues it caused. But wait, there's more. Remember when they tried to kill the dog? They had done it when he wasn't home, so he never even knew about it. Out of rage, they sued my friend for his dog biting the man's leg. He had to spend a week in the hospital as it got very badly infected, and tried to make him pay for the hospital fees and compensation. But he defended himself by saying they invaded his property and even sued them for that, which led to a 1-year suspended jail time. Which means if they are ever convicted of something, they will spend that year in jail on top of that conviction sentence. If they don't do anything else, they won't be going to jail. Hope you enjoyed this story. I certainly did when he told it to me. Girls in middle school thought that I did not know Spanish just because of my appearance. Background: I am Hispanic, born in the US, but my appearance made it look like I'm Asian because I have squinted eyes from my dad's side and I speak 2 languages, Spanish and English. So it was the end of my 4th period, and after that period, I got to lunch. Geez, you're running out of blood at that point. Kidding. So as I'm going towards the lunch line, I meet up with some of my friends and go to the lunch line together, and while in line, we began talking about video games and such, and as we talk, a group of girls that were behind us waiting in line thought that no one can understand their secret language, which was just Spanish. But I think nothing much of it, until they start talking bad about other people in the lunchroom. Like, for example, look at that kid, he looks like a dog, and such, which gets my attention for a bit, and I ignore them. As soon as I started to mind my own business with my friends, they started to talking about me and saying that I looked so ugly and other swear words in Spanish, which really ticked me off. As soon as they were about to say more about my appearance, I say in Spanish, loud enough so that they can hear, imagine calling people ugly even though they look worse. My friends knew what was going on at that point because they understood Spanish also, so they started laughing and saying things like, "That's so true," at the girls. Those girls turned pale after they realized that we understood their language as well and left the lunchroom. It was the best feeling ever because they got what they deserved and they learned their lesson after that. Posted by user Yam Slammin, titled, "Gave guy a hickey mid-makeout after realizing he was cheating with me." This happened years ago as a high school freshman, but I've always been kind of proud about how I handled this situation. Background: I was friends with a guy in a large middle school friend group of neighborhood kids that would play manhunt and hang out often. This disbanded as everyone got older and moved, could drive, etc. I always had a crush on him, but he was a bit older and never seemed to see me that way, but we were good friends. Fast forward to high school, and I hadn't seen the guy in a year or 2, and was surprised that he was in one of my classes as a freshman. We had failed that class twice, and was having a tough time. We sat together and talked, and ended up hanging out outside of school. I still liked him, but he had a girlfriend, so I kept my feelings in. He confessed to me that they were having issues and he needed to break up with her, but it'd be super hard on the both of them. I was surprised because I thought they were really solid. He always wore a bracelet with her name on it, and we continued to hang out often, and he kissed me, all while reassuring me that he was going to leave her. It was just complicated, which led to making out hangouts. This happened 2 to 3 times before I noticed he was still wearing the bracelet with her name on it. I stopped mid-makeout and asked if they were on such bad terms, why was he still wearing the bracelet? He got annoyed and gave me a short and not convincing answer. It all hit me in the 16-year-old brain at once. This guy was using me to cheat and had no intentions of breaking up with this girl. He tried to go back to kissing, but I moved to his neck and just suctioned right to it. He pushed me away and exclaimed about hickeys. He immediately left, muttering about covering it up with makeup. They broke up shortly thereafter. I know his girlfriend thought I was a terrible person for cheating with this guy, but he honestly had me convinced. I honestly feel like I did her a favor. Physical evidence of cheating right before her eyes. Posted by user Alanga Brielsch, titled, "Cool, take the elevator." So I live on a student residence, shared flats on every floor. I live on the 9th floor and usually take the only bus to university, so I have to be at the bus stop at exactly 9:10 a.m. Next bus is at 9:40, which is too late for me. One girl living on floor number 10 usually calls the elevator and keeps the door from closing while she waits for her friend to be ready, which keeps everyone from using the elevator from 9 to 9:08 or 9:09. After 3 straight days of this happening and having to go down the stairs, I decided to get my revenge. Every time I would go down the stairs, I would call the elevator on every single floor, making it stop on the 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th. They would usually lose the bus, and I would be able to see them from the bus as they exit the building and gazed at the bus. They started ranting about it on the residents' WhatsApp group, about people being selfish and major a-holes who don't care about anyone else, and how they were late to an important exam. Some random guy then sent a picture of the girl holding the elevator open with her backpack, along with the caption, "Selfish?" Hell broke loose after that. Her floormates started complaining about how one of them would just toss her cigarettes on the organic trash and smoke in the hallways. Another girl was ticked about how she would just drop her done cigarettes on random dishes and glasses when smoking in the kitchen. 2 months after that, she got kicked out. The other girl left on her own. And good riddance to bad trash. Posted by user CN822, titled, "I'm not paying for your stuff anymore." My ex-boyfriend is a narcissistic jerk, and we're not on speaking terms when I found out that he's still using my Netflix account. Before that, I've found out that my bank account was registered to his Spotify. He waited years for the new season of whatever he's watching, so what I did was change the password mid-season just to pee him off. I know the series is not available for download, and he's kind of broke, so he couldn't afford his own Netflix account. I felt bad, but it serves him right for gaslighting me for months before we broke up. Edit, and he still hasn't returned my phone that he borrowed. What a good guy. Posted by user Vania de Santos, titled, "Secret Santa Revenge." This is my mum's story, not mine, but it is the most petty revenge that I heard from someone I know. It was my mum's first job, and she joined Secret Santa. She got a porcelain doll that was broken and re-glued by a colleague of hers. She said she got really mad about it. What did she do? She waited for the whole year to get Secret Santa again. She asked everyone who was her colleague's Secret Santa so she could switch. When they exchanged gifts, her colleague opened up her present, and there it was, the broken porcelain doll. My mum waited for a year to give the crappy doll back. Hell yeah, go mum! Posted by user Lime Cherry, titled, "Manipulative power-hungry aunt torments my family for years, costs her $300,000. Dealt with my crappy manipulative abusive aunt all my life, finally got revenge." Players are myself, male, late 30s, sister 3 years younger, aunt, older sister to my mother, single mum, adopted, no blood relation to my aunt, cousins 3 total, 1 male, 2 female. I have good relationships with them now mostly. So, my estranged father, who had been living several counties over, is pretty much out of the picture by the time my parents got their divorce when I was 9. Due to financial hardship, we were forced to live with my aunt and the nightmare of a household we would soon find ourselves in. My aunt married into Georgia wealth, and you can figure out what that means on your own. She had 3 kids and eventually caught her husband having an affair. It's a huge scandal. She gets the house, the kids, and a fat payout from the family attorney. This is important because my aunt didn't do a damn thing in her life to earn her money, her house, her lifestyle, or basically anything. She was born poor along with my mum. Under her household, she was drunk with power. Years of therapy have allowed me to recognize that certain people, when in a position of power, get a perverse pleasure in ordering others to do their bidding. She was the strictest of authoritarians in every possible way you could imagine. Chores had to be completed by an exact specific time. Vacuuming by 3:45 p.m, dishes by 3:55 p.m, laundry days for my mother, us kids, were Tuesday, Thursday, 5:35 p.m. to 7:55 p.m. If it was still running, she would shut the power off for the 2 units. As we grew older, her own kids opted to stay with their father for full-time custody, and she had them on weekends. Even they couldn't stand her when she was in charge and in the house. As time passed, she got them less and less, opting for alternating weekends as high school activities took precedence over time with mother. For my sister and I, the large 6-bedroom house was not ours for the taking. My mum had to pay rent as well as rent for 1 bedroom, as that was all she could afford on her salary. We had to share a bedroom until my 2nd year of high school. All the while, there was 1 spare unused bedroom available at all times. My aunt needed this for guests when they stayed over. Not 1 guest stayed there in the 10 years I was under that roof. Finally, the church we attended told my aunt to give up the spare bedroom so my sister can have her own room, as it was unhealthy for 2 teenagers sharing a room together like that. That infuriated my aunt because someone told her what to do in her own household. My sister and I got the brunt of her wrath. As my mum's salary was tapped out, my sister and I had to do extra chores like mowing the lawn, trimming the shrubs, cleaning the pool, which we could no longer use without her being outside watching us. My aunt's behavior was becoming more and more outrageous and disconnected from society. For example, she'd always snapped her fingers when she wanted to get someone's attention, but it was getting far more frequent, and she would blow up into a tirade if either my sister and I didn't obey. Her own kids tried repeatedly to tell her the crap she was doing was wrong, but she wouldn't listen. Eventually, they wanted nothing to do with her outside of the home. She was a tyrant, and repeated intervention to get her to see the folly of her ways would fall on deaf ears. I snapped. All through high school, I had no confidence as a person. I was weak-willed and growing ever distant from friends and society. I say this in all truthfulness and fear, that had circumstances continued the way they had been going, I could very well have taken a gun to myself or worse, to others around me. I was that bad off. I had just graduated high school and started my first semester of community college. I'm 2 weeks into my classes, attending from home, when my aunt dropped a bomb on me. You owe me money for this month's rent, the same amount for next month's rent as well. It is the 27th after all, you're an adult now. You're out of high school and working now, so you need to pay rent. The hell? I blew a fudging gasket as I yelled back, you can't just suddenly decide to charge rent because you feel like it. I need 30 days notice, I have rights. My aunt yelled at me some bullcrap excuse that she had discussed this with my mother, and it was decided that I needed to pay my own rent now. In some miraculous backbone move, of which I still have no idea how I stood up to her, I yelled right back at her, if I'm an adult, then treat me like one and talk to me about rental agreements. I'll start paying you rent in 30 days, starting the 1st. I turned my back to her and walked away with my fist balled tight. I was furious with anger, but I walked away. My aunt saw my fists from behind and screamed bloody murder that I was going to attack her. No, I wasn't. She snapped her fingers at me repeatedly on my tail to get my attention, but I didn't turn around. I needed to cool off and clear my head. As I turned the corner, she grabbed my wrist hard, yelling, "I'm not finished talking to you." I threw my still balled up fist forward, keeping with my stride to break her grip as I hadn't stopped my momentum. This caused her grabbing arm to slam hard into the corner of the wall that I had just turned into. She screamed in pain, but I left the house and took off. The aftermath of that incident was that my aunt called the cops on me in an attempt to press charges. She was taken to the hospital and suffered a fractured wrist, and she was put in a cast/sling. Don't know, as I never saw it and never inquired further. Her story changed every time she told the cops what happened, while my story was spot on every time. I can still recall that moment down to the smell in the house, where I was facing, the working and non-working light bulbs, etc., forever ingrained in me. I was kicked out of the house and I couldn't visit my sister or my mum there at the house again. Fine by me, as I didn't want to see my tramp aunt ever again. I was happy to meet my mother and sister at the local diner or outlet. We could be ourselves there and not hostages in our own home. Years later, my mum wised up and got out of that abusive relationship with her sister and moved out on her own. She got a temporary nice place, invested wisely, and with the help from the church, got help getting a place of her own. In 2009, after the housing crisis, she bought her own place that she could never have afforded on her own prior to the market crash. But some good came out of it. She wept knowing my sister and her family and myself can come visit anytime and stay. Over the years, I've been able to forgive my aunt. Not forget, forgive. I've let go of a lot of my anger and hatred towards her that she put me through. When she has no leverage or control over us, she's a somewhat decent person for being a total tramp of a person. My cousins have calmed down, heard my side of what happened those years ago, and know what kind of person I am compared to what kind of person their mother is. They chose to believe me, and know I didn't hit her or strike her, or beat her across the face like she continues to claim. The revenge. While I've been able to forgive my aunt for what she has done to me, I cannot forgive her for what she did to my mother. Kept her in financial hardship for a decade while she sat on a bank account full of cash and assets. Or what she did to my sister. Forced her to pay for damages because the water heater burst while my aunt and mother was away one weekend, leaving my sister at home. She didn't discover the flooded rooms for hours. My aunt's reasoning, it was her responsibility to watch the house, not the responsibility of the homeowner to maintain and replace the water heater before it goes. Let's leave that upfront $5,000 financial burden before the flood insurance kicks in on a 16-year-old girl. I've had little to no contact with my aunt since I was kicked out of the house nearly 2 decades ago, but I do keep in constant contact with my cousins. While I'm not going to divulge what I do for a living, I can say that I work with and for the government. I've worked my ass off getting to where I'm at today. I'm known for being truthful, wise, and giving good advice when asked. Because of this, I often talk financially with my cousins, all of whom are money smart and are doing well for themselves. They often then relay this information to their scheming mother, who has no mind for business and investments. All that money she got from her house sale, her divorce settlement, her previous investments, is pretty much gone. I spent years planning on the perfect trap, and it took a long time to prepare everything to make sure everything appeared right. I am not a lawyer, and I don't pretend to know the law, but I do know the regulations and laws pertaining to insider information. This is not that. 100% certain of it, and if I ever go to court, I know my lawyer has a solid case in my defense. But this is a grey area, most definitely. I let slip to my cousins about some future real estate plans near my aunt's new area of living. It may be worth a lot more because of future development taking place in the area. All of that was true and backed up by what was in the newspaper and new construction signs that newly appeared on Google Maps at the time. That's new to me. Wow, new. The rest was fabricated by myself, backed up by actual information I looked up on real estate websites and on projects I was working on through my work. The telephone game takes place, and a few weeks later, I presume, my aunt starts making phone calls to real estate agents trying to buy lots of land in the undeveloped crappy area of her new house. Over the course of a few months to half a year, she spends $300,000 of her last remaining savings on land, hoping it will pay out when the area around it gets developed in the upcoming years. Only, HUD/government/city doesn't have any plans to develop in those immediate areas. In fact, analysis showed that building in those areas was poor planning and would cost the taxpayers 2 to 3 times as much, as the land was not environmentally sound. It was best to build 6 miles away. This post was long overdue, because it's been over 2 years since my aunt purchased land that is basically worthless. See, she won't sell the land unless she gets at least the same price she paid for it, because she's the owner of that land. Can't tell her what to do on her own land. Sweet karma strikes in a way I couldn't possibly have foreseen. My cousin informed me that the value of the land has decreased significantly because it's not environmentally sound to build anything commercial there, but it's zoned for commercial use. Currently, 3 of the 4 blocks of land she purchased are just weed farms next to eyesore abandoned buildings or industrial complexes. Nobody can build on it, and nor does anyone want to buy it. Sucks to be her. Best part is, my cousins have absolutely no idea that I set them up for their mother to take the fall. These environmental results are relatively new, and the perfect cover to say why the project changed locations 6 miles away. TLDR, abusive aunt torments my family and myself for a decade and more. Decades later, I'm in a position to trick her buying worthless land, and the icing on the cake? That land can't be used for its intended purpose and has devalued significantly. Posted by user Concerned Gay Dude. Titled, Ex-best friend slept with my ex-girlfriend and blackmailed me, so I got him mocked by his friends and fired from his job. Sorry about the title, not really all that great with them. So I'm a gay man, though it took me a long time to actually come to terms with it. During the time when I was questioning my sexuality, I was dating who I thought was a lovely girl. I'll call her Jane. I genuinely loved her and pictured us having a future together, as we'd been dating for 3 years and it started to get pretty serious, even though we were only 18 when he split us up. You lot know what young love is like. Anyway, the only other important people in the story are my ex-best friend James and my absolutely incredible boyfriend Alex. Not their real names, by the way. Also, this is a long read, so sorry about that. I tend to ramble, and I'm not that much of a writer, so sorry if this kinda sucks. James and I had been friends since we were about 10 or 11, and we got close, to the point that we felt more like brothers than best friends. He was really supportive of my relationship with Jane, and would constantly talk about how glad he was that she made me happy. Though, when I look back on it now, he had a habit of constantly talking about how gorgeous she was, how sexy she was, and how I was such a lucky guy. I understand the last one, but he was a bit excessive when he talked about how attractive Jane was, but I was young and naive at the time, and didn't think anything of it. That was until I caught them. Again, I'm not much of a writer, but essentially, I noticed that they were both becoming pretty possessive over their phones. They'd randomly disappear, claiming to be feeling ill or having to get some project done, and I know it sounds stupid, but I kept noticing that the condoms I was buying were going missing. I always liked to make sure we had enough for precautions, so I wound up going to Jane's house one day when she bailed on me, claiming to have a migraine. I was partly worried for her health and brought some painkillers, food, and some bottled water in case she genuinely did feel ill, but I also had a feeling in the pit of my stomach that she was lying to me. I don't know how to explain it, I just knew. Sure enough, when I let myself in with the spare key she'd given me, I found her in bed with James. I was heartbroken. The 2 people who I cared about most in the world, and who I thought cared about me, went behind my back like this. I was furious. We had a major argument. Jane begged me to listen to her, whilst James yelled at me, and I eventually just stormed out. I wanted to go and tell everyone what they'd done, and shame them for it, but that's where the problem arose. Remember at the start where I mentioned that I was questioning my sexuality? James knew about it. Of course he knew I'd never leave Jane to sleep with a bunch of guys, but he was fully aware that I'd figured out that I was attracted to guys and girls. More like just Jane in particular, as I don't really feel any attraction towards girls anymore, and he used this against me. He knew full well how terrified I was that my parents would disown me, and he made sure to remind me that if I didn't keep my mouth shut, then my parents would find out. At the time, this was absolutely terrifying, though I now know that they accept me 100% and still love me, so I kept my mouth shut. I was stuck having to work with James at his father's garage, as I couldn't come up with a way to explain how I was mad at him without letting everyone know that what he did and risking getting outed to my parents. Besides, I needed the money and there weren't a whole lot of other jobs I could apply for. Also, I really should mention that James was going out of his way to harass me at work, calling me a bunch of slurs whenever he got the chance, pushing me around, and just generally reminding me that he could tell my parents at any point. I got really low at this point, and the only time I actually felt sort of content to just let myself relax and be myself was when I'd go to the local gay bars. There was one club in particular that I loved to go to, a drag club where I met my boyfriend Alex. He was a drag queen there and helped out behind the bar and stuff when he was needed. To save any confusion, I'm just going to use he/him pronouns for him, though they do switch when he's in drag. We flirted for a few weeks before gradually becoming friends with benefits. He is amazing, and I know it sounds cheesy, but I was the happiest I'd ever been when he agreed to be my boyfriend. But that's skipping a little bit ahead. This revenge happened before we started dating, and we were still just friends who'd hook up every now and then. After a few months, I finally worked up the courage to open up to Alex about what happened with Jane and James, and that's when an evil look fell over his face. See, Alex is the sweetest guy you could ever meet, but if you pee him off, he can and will turn into an evil genius. Around this time, James had been bragging to me that the ladies loved him and he could get any girl he wanted. I really doubt that. He'd always been kinda like this, but he upped the bragging in an attempt to annoy me. He also told me how any girl that I dated would leave me in an instant to sleep with him. So Alex suggested that we put that to the test. Cue the revenge. We started off small. See, James had given me his email address a few years prior, and just as I thought, he couldn't be bothered to change it. So I decided to be very generous and sign him up to a premium subscription to several gay naughty fun time sites, and decided to be courteous and agreed to receive emails about notifications, new offers, and other things he may be interested in, just to be nice and make sure he had some variety. Oh, did I mention that this was the email address he allowed his father to use? Oops. It cost me a fair bit of money, but I made sure that he got the best offers. Alex was more than happy to chip in to help me. It was worth it. When we were working in the garage and his dad stormed in to ask to speak to him. Now, his dad didn't really give a crap about his kid being gay, but he was mortified that his son would order this much adult naughty fun and put it in their shared email address. He genuinely thought for months that James was a sex addict. We may have signed him up for a bit more than we thought. I logged into the email after the first 2 weeks of him being signed up for the subscriptions, and he had well over 100 emails about his accounts. This is when, like we'd hoped, James started getting more aggressive. He'd barge into me, screw up my work to get me in trouble, and send me disgusting messages, as well as threatening and insulting me in person. I took note of everything. I kept a notepad to log the dates and times of the incidents, and kept a detailed description of everything he did, every insult, and every threat. I'd screenshot all the messages from him and record every insult and threat that he'd hurl at me on my phone. Alex helped me organize all of this onto files, and then we saved it all onto a hard drive. This would be important for later. This is when we decided to move on to that next phase of our plan. The girlfriend. And no, not Jane. Also, I should mention that he and Jane split up only a couple of weeks after I found out about the affair. They were never gonna last. See, Alex passes extremely well when he's in drag. Being feminine already makes it a bit easier. His voice isn't all that deep, and he can sometimes be mistaken for a girl with a slightly deeper voice. He usually exaggerates his makeup and clothing, but for this phase of the plan, we decided to get him to tone down the makeup slightly to make it appear more natural, and a mutual friend of ours took him aside and gave Alex some of her clothes to wear. We then created a fake Facebook account for my new girlfriend, and Alex and I posted some cute couple photos on this account and my own personal Facebook account, posting all your usual lovey-dovey stuff that you see on couples' social media. Then we put our plan into action. Alex would come to pick me up from work a couple of days a week, dressed as an extremely beautiful girl, if I do say so myself. We'd chat, hold hands, hug and kiss, and just generally act like a couple. James obviously noticed. He took the bait and began chatting to Alex when he was waiting for me to finish up, and eventually wound up sending him, or our fake account, a friend request, which Alex was all too happy to accept. It took a few weeks, but after a while of just talking about school, work, TV shows and music, James finally started to edge his and Alex's conversations into more sexual territory, which was exactly what we were looking for. Alex answered accordingly. He had tried to send Alex nudes, hoping to get some in return, but we deleted those straight away. We thought that would be a little too far, even for this douchebag. This continued for a few weeks, until we had everything in place. Alex made sure to screenshot the messages, and then we went ahead and changed the name of the Facebook account to Alex's name and deleted the couple picture on it. I sent the screenshots of the conversation with Alex to James's friends. They were pretty accepting, and usually were the ones to call James out when he was being an a-hole, and they took great pleasure in mocking James for it. The look on James's face when his friends mentioned his little boy toy was absolutely priceless. I'm not even sure he'll ever live it down. The people he picked on at school even snapped back at him that he was the one who was sexting another guy, so where the hell did he get off calling them a naughty word? This ticked him off to no end, as he knew that they were right, even if he hadn't known Alex was a boy at the time. James also had this sort of expected reaction and started sending Alex a bunch of hateful messages and threats, only helping our case as we'd screenshot the messages and add it to the folders on the hard drive. Once I had what we thought was enough evidence, I decided to take it all to James's dad, mine and James's boss, and explained everything that was going on. From the cheating with Jane to the blackmail and threats, he just sat there and listened, allowing me to show him the proof that I'd gathered. He did find the petty revenge with Alex and drag pretty funny, but the rest of the time his face was just kind of blank, with a hint of anger in his eyes. He thanked me for the information and went off to speak with his son. James got fired on the spot. I agreed not to go to the police, as this could end up with some pretty bad press for his dad's company, and his dad was a pretty cool guy. I knew he was all talk, so there was no real threat of danger. I received an amazing reference from James's dad for a job I desperately wanted, and eventually got, no doubt helped by said reference. James's parent flipped out with him. They refused to give him his job back and made him go out and actually put in the effort to get and keep a job. He'd gotten used to being able to slack off as his dad owned the place and technically couldn't fire him. They also sold the car they'd been letting him use and told him to pay for a new one with his own money. It took him about 2 years to save up enough money to buy his new car. It all eventually came out about James and Jane's affair. As for the threats of outing me, Alex kindly reminded James that he had absolutely no proof of me doing anything, whilst his friends knew all about these sexual messages James had sent him. You know, another guy. It would look like he was just pointing fingers because of a little petty revenge. James's father had also assured me that my secret was safe with him, so the threats of blackmail were now non-existent. James got into college on a scholarship and started hanging out with a bunch of other douchebags. I found out through a mutual friend that James was still a homophobic prick at college and was terrorizing a couple of LGBT students, as well as making disgusting threats against a lesbian girl in his class. None of them wanted to do anything about this, however. Why? Because James had been lying to them and saying that his dad was one of the higher-ups in college or something. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention, and I can't remember exactly who he said his father was, but it was enough to make these poor kids worry that they could be kicked out of college for speaking up about this. I decided to lend a helping hand, with the help of our mutual friend. I emailed a bunch of the disgusting screenshots, recordings of some of the threats, and some of the homophobic, racist, and sexist things he'd posted on his Facebook page, which he had deleted before the college could see them, to the higher-ups in the college. They were not happy with what they saw. They eventually revoked his scholarship after a few of the students, with some encouragement, spoke up about the harassment and threats. I honestly have no clue why he turned out like this. His parents are absolutely lovely, open-minded people. It's crazy. James's parents kicked him out after that. He stayed with his friends for a few months before he managed to get an apartment. Last I heard, he was working in a fast food restaurant, working to get into another college. I genuinely hope he bettered himself and that he can do well in his life. Everyone's capable of change, right? I'd also like to clarify that I didn't care all that much about getting back at Jane, because yes, she did have the affair, but I was getting some revenge on James for the blackmail and threats that came after it. Jane had showed me proof that she'd tried to prevent James from blackmailing me, and just told him to let it go. If they'd both just stopped speaking to me after the affair, then this whole thing wouldn't have happened. I'd have been hurt, and maybe a little awkward at work, but I wouldn't have went out of my way to get back at him. Though, I did fill Jane's mother in on what actually happened, and sent her some screenshots where Jane admitted to the affair. This was after I found out that she had told her mother that I was the one who cheated with a bunch of guys and girls, instead of the "we just grew apart" version that we'd agreed to tell our parents. From what I heard, her mother was not at all that pleased with her. I also sent a few of the texts where she admitted to having an affair to her new boyfriend. Needless to say, he wasn't happy to find out that the abusive ex was actually just an ex who she'd cheated on. They're still together from what I heard, so all I can say to that guy is, good luck, my dude. I eventually did end up coming out to my parents, and they were surprisingly supportive, which was amazing. And Alex and I got together a year or two after these events, and we're still very much in love. Sorry if this doesn't count as pro-revenge, but a couple of friends suggested I post it here. I know there's probably a bunch of spelling mistakes, and the story might be all over the place, but I'm not much of a writer, so my apologies. Apology accepted, OP. That was a lovely story, and I'm glad you have the balls to stand up for yourself. Not a lot of people do, and I probably wouldn't be able to do it in the same regard that you did, dear lord. Anyway guys, I think that's where I'm going to leave today's episode at today. If you liked it, please tell me what you thought of it down in the description below. I hope you guys have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I'm going to pass you off to outro Markee now. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one today. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I would love you to subscribe because I love your face and I love seeing you here every single day that you are here in this video. I don't know what else to say today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content. I do have a second channel that's called Markee 2. Link should be up on the screen somewhere here if you don't have adblock installed. If you don't know where to find the channel, you can go to my main page. Just click on the Markee face and it should be on the right, somewhere there, or on channels if you're on phone. Hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.